Ever lay awake replaying their mind games? Tonight we flip the script, discover the 3-hour rescue that outsmarts narcissist tricks, and finally lets you drift off in peace. Sleep deprivation. Have you ever lain awake, eyes heavy but sleep just out of reach, as if your mind refuses to let you rest? In those quiet hours, when the world seems still, and every thought echoes loudly, it can feel like something or someone is keeping you awake on purpose. For many people who face emotional manipulation, that someone is a narcissist using sleep deprivation as a weapon. By stealing your rest, they chip away at your strength, nibble at your calm, and tighten their grip on your emotions, one sleepless night at a time. Sleep is more than a break from the day. It is the time when our minds heal, our bodies repair, and our emotions find balance. When a narcissist keeps you awake through late-night arguments, urgent texts, or sudden crises, they know exactly what they are doing. They aim to blur the line between day and night until you barely notice the difference. In that haze, it becomes much harder to think clearly, to trust your own feelings, or to stand up for yourself. A rested mind can see through lies and set boundaries, but a tired mind is vulnerable, quick to doubt, and easy to control. Imagine the pattern. One sleepless night followed by another. You start the day foggy-headed, your patience thin as paper. Small annoyances feel huge. You find yourself snapping at friends, or crying over things you never used to notice. The world tilts under your feet, and you crave just a few hours of peace. Meanwhile, the narcissist watches, satisfied that you are off balance. They may pretend to care, offering a glass of water or a word of sympathy, only to pull the rug out from under you again with a sudden text or an accusation. This push and pull keeps you running on empty, and in that weakness, they hold power. There's a scientific truth behind their tactic. Lack of sleep makes it harder to regulate emotions. When we're well rested, our brains can process, stress, and recover. When we're tired, even small frustrations feel overwhelming. Decision-making becomes a chore, and self-doubt creeps in like a shadow. A narcissist exploits that shadow, whispering that you are too sensitive, too weak, or too tired to stand up for yourself. You begin to believe that perhaps you are. The problem, that your need for rest, is somehow unreasonable. In reality, it is their refusal to let you sleep that is the problem, and denying rest is their way of keeping you from seeing the truth. So how do you fight back? First, recognize that sleep is not a luxury. It is a necessity. Begin by reclaiming your bedroom as a sanctuary. Turn off notifications, put your phone on silent or in another room, and close the door to anyone who doesn't respect your need for rest. Establish a simple bedtime routine. Dim the lights, play soft, calming sounds, and take a few moments to breathe deeply and let go of your day. Every time you defend that routine, you are telling yourself that your well-being matters more than their manipulations. Next, set firm boundaries around communication. If they text or call after your bedtime, decide what will happen. Do you send one reply and then switch off your device? Do you send a message in the morning instead? You get to choose. Enforce your plan consistently, and remember, every time you press ignore or do not disturb, you reclaim a piece of your peace. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, even scary, because the manipulator wants to keep you in a state of panic. But each moment you hold your ground reinforces your strength and teaches your mind to trust itself again. In the days that follow, you will notice small shifts. When you sleep through the night, your thoughts feel quieter, your heart lighter. You can meet the morning with fresh energy, making choices that align with your values rather than reacting to their drama. Your emotions steady like a calm sea after a storm. You begin to remember who you are beneath the exhaustion and the anxiety. In that restoration, the narcissist's tactics lose their power, because they no longer prey on your weakness, but must face you at your full strength. Sleep deprivation is more than a bad night's rest. It is a tool of emotional warfare designed to wear you down until you lose sight of your own worth. But when you recognize the tactic, set clear boundaries, and protect your sleep as the vital resource it truly is, you begin to break the cycle. You rediscover the power of a peaceful mind and a well-rested body. one that cannot be easily manipulated. In that quiet victory, you find the calm confidence to move forward, knowing that the best way to outsmart a narcissist is to never again give up your right to rest. Gaslight before bed. Have you ever gone to bed questioning what really happened that day? Like your memory has holes in it. Like something you were sure about just a few hours ago now feels confusing or even wrong. If so, you're not alone. This feeling, this quiet doubt creeping in at night, is exactly what happens when someone uses gaslighting right before bed. It's not just a coincidence, it's a calculated move. When a person twists your reality in the most vulnerable hours, they aren't just confusing you. They are trying to take control of your mind, your emotions, and your ability to trust yourself. Night is a strange time. The world slows down and our thoughts get louder. Our brains, already tired from the day, begin to process emotions, conversations, and events. This is when we reflect. But if someone uses this time to fill your mind with confusion, with contradictions, with guilt, they know that your defenses are low. You're too tired to argue, too drained to prove your point. And that's exactly the state they want you in. Not alert, not strong, just quiet, tired, and full of doubt. Let's look at how it happens. You're getting ready for bed, maybe brushing your teeth or settling into your blanket, and suddenly they bring something up. Something you thought was settled. You said you'd do this, but you didn't, they tell you, even though you clearly remember doing it. I never said that, they insist, even though you remember the exact words. First, you try to explain, but they talk in circles. They speak calmly, almost kindly, but with a sharp edge. They don't yell. They don't lose control. Instead, they make you question your own memory. And that's the trick. They don't need to prove anything. They just need you to doubt yourself. It doesn't stop there. Gaslighting before sleep is powerful because it affects how your brain stores memories. Studies have shown that sleep is when our brains sort and file away information from the day. But if someone makes you question those memories before you close your eyes, your brain starts storing confusion instead of clarity. It's like scribbling on a clean page before filing it away. In the morning, you may not remember exactly what was said, but you wake up with a heavy feeling, like something is off, but you can't quite explain what. That's the effect they want. To keep you off balance, unsure, dependent on their version of reality instead of your own. Over time, this tactic can change the way you see yourself. You begin to second-guess your choices. You rely more on their opinions. You think maybe you are too sensitive or that you forget things more than others. You feel small, quiet, like walking through fog. And yet, every time you try to stand up for what you remember, they twist the story again. Why? Are you always so dramatic? That's not how it happened. You're just tired. Go to sleep. But how can you sleep when your own mind feels like it's slipping away? That's why protecting your peace before bed is so important. You don't have to fight every time. You don't have to prove your memory is perfect. What you need is a boundary. A quiet line that says, "This is my time to rest. This is my space to breathe." If someone tries to bring up arguments, past mistakes, or twisted stories right before bed, you can calmly respond with, "I'm not discussing this now. We can talk tomorrow." And then walk away, not because you're running, but because you're protecting your mind, your emotions, your sleep. Even if you still hear their voice echoing in your mind, even if doubt still sneaks in, remind yourself, confusion is not weakness. It is a sign that something doesn't add up. And when something doesn't add up, it means your instincts are still working. Trust them. Write things down if you have to. Keep a simple journal where you record what actually happened, what was said, how it made you feel, what you remember clearly. This is your evidence. Not to show them, but to remind yourself. So when they try to rewrite the story the next night, you already have the truth in your hands. You are not losing your mind. You are not too emotional. You are not broken. You are being twisted into a version of yourself that serves their control. And you don't have to accept that. The path back to yourself begins with awareness. with. Knowing that gaslighting before bed is real, that it is a method, not a mistake, that it's not your fault if you're confused, and most importantly, that you have the power to step away, breathe deep, and protect your peace. Imagine falling asleep not with a racing heart and a tangled mind, but with a steady breath and a quiet soul. Imagine waking up with clarity, not doubt. This is possible. It begins by making your rest a priority, by turning off late-night arguments, by choosing silence over conflict, calm over confusion. The more you guard that time, the stronger you become, and little by little, their words lose their grip. Your memories grow stronger, your confidence returns, and you begin to remember the truth that was always there. You are not what they say you are. You are clear, you are capable, you are enough. Silent treatment. Have you ever been in the same room with someone you care about, but it feels like you're completely invisible? Like your voice doesn't matter, your presence doesn't count, and no matter what you say or do, it's met with cold silence? That's not just someone needing space. That's the silent treatment. And when it's used as punishment, especially by someone you love or trust, it's not just silence. It's emotional control wrapped in quietness. The silent treatment feels quiet on the outside, but inside, it's the loudest noise you'll ever hear. The person who once smiled at you, held your hand, shared laughter, now acts as if you don't exist. No eye contact, no words, just stillness. At first you think maybe they're tired or upset about something small. So, you ask gently, "Is something wrong?" But there's no reply, just more silence. And soon, your mind starts to race. Did I do something wrong? Did I upset them? Should I apologize even if I'm not sure why? And that's exactly how the silent treatment works. It creates confusion. It makes you feel responsible for their coldness, even when you've done nothing wrong. It makes you question yourself, bend yourself, shrink yourself, all just to get a response, just to hear them speak again, just to end the painful distance that now fills every moment between you. Over time, this kind of silence becomes louder than words. You start avoiding things that might upset them. You walk on eggshells. You try to predict their moods, fix problems before they start, and take the blame just to avoid another round of quiet punishment. And while you're doing all that, guess what they're doing? They're watching. They're letting the silence do the work, because they know silence hurts. It makes you feel unimportant, unworthy, like you're chasing affection that once came freely. But let's be clear, silence is only healing when it's mutual, respectful, and temporary, when two people need a break to cool down and come back stronger. The silent treatment, however, is different. It's not about peace. It's about punishment. It's about power. It's about saying, "You hurt me," without giving you a chance to explain. It's about making you feel small without lifting a single word. This emotional tool is especially painful at night, when the world is quiet and your thoughts grow louder. You lie in bed, feeling the space between you grow bigger. You want to reach out, to talk, to fix it, but they turn away. They scroll on their phone, or worse, they pretend to sleep. And so, you lie there too, awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what you did to deserve this. But here's what's important to know. The silent treatment is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their control. Silence, when used this way, is a mask for deeper problems, a way to avoid communication instead of building it. It teaches you to fear disconnection instead of growing through understanding. And most dangerously, it makes you believe that love is something you have to earn back, even when you didn't. Break it. So what can you do when silence becomes a weapon in your life? First, recognize that you don't have to chase words. You don't have to explain yourself again and again just to receive kindness. You deserve communication, not confusion. If someone consistently uses silence to control your emotions, that's not love. It's manipulation. And love never needs to silence you to prove a point. Take a step back. Give yourself space, not just physically, but emotionally. Don't beg for attention. Don't lose your peace trying to earn theirs. Instead, focus on your own clarity. Remind yourself of your truth. You can say something simple and strong like, "When you're ready to talk respectfully, I'm here." And then let go of the need to fix what they won't face. Silence hurts the most when it's unexpected, when it replaces love without warning. But once you understand it for what it truly is, a method to confuse and control, you can stop letting it define your worth. You can start protecting your heart instead of chasing validation. You can begin to rebuild your own voice, even if it shakes. At night, when the silence wraps around you, don't fill it with self-blame. Fill it with kindness. For yourself. Speak gentle words in your mind. Remind yourself of who you are and what you deserve. You are not too much. You are not too emotional. You are not wrong for wanting connection. You are simply human, and humans need more than silence. We need understanding. There will be a day when silence won't scare you, when you'll recognize the difference between peaceful quiet and cold punishment. And when that day comes, you won't wait in confusion. You'll stand in calm. You'll know your voice matters, even when others try to ignore it. You'll no longer fear the quiet, you'll own it. Because you've learned that love doesn't leave you guessing. Love listens. Love speaks. And most importantly, love never needs to disappear to prove its power. Love bombing. Have you ever been swept off your feet so quickly that you wondered if it could be real? One moment you're meeting someone new, and the next you're drowning in compliments, gifts, and promises that feel too good to refuse. This flood of affection is called love bombing, and though it may feel wonderful at first, it's often a carefully planned tactic designed to hook your heart and cloud your mind. Love bombing begins like a dream. You receive messages full of praise, each one lighting up your phone and filling you with warmth. You hear how special, how unique, and how perfect you are. You might be showered with small gifts. A bouquet of flowers, a box of chocolates, or a playlist of songs chosen just for you. Every gesture seems to say, "I see you, I value you, I want you." And in your excitement, you start to believe it. You feel seen in a way you never have before, and it's easy to let your guard down. Behind this whirlwind of attention, however, lies a different intention. The person giving all this affection is not simply generous or deeply in love. They are creating a bond based on extremes: extreme praise, extreme attention, extreme generosity. Your mind registers these highs as proof that you found someone rare, someone who truly understands you. But our brains are wired to reward us for such surges of affection. We get a rush of happiness, a burst of energy that makes us crave more. And that craving is exactly what they want you to feel. Once you're hooked, the tone can begin to shift. The same person who once praised every part of you may start to criticize or withdraw praise for small missteps. Suddenly, you find yourself walking on eggshells, fearing that one wrong move could end the affection you once took for granted. You might ask yourself, did I say something wrong? Do they not care about me anymore? And just when your anxiety peaks, they return with more praise and gifts, reminding you of all the reasons you felt safe with them in the first place. This cycle of reward and punishment trains your brain to seek that initial high of praise, even if it means enduring the stress that follows. Because love bombing overwhelms your senses, it can be hard to see it for what it is. You may feel grateful for the attention and guilty for ever doubting someone who seems so invested in you. You might tell your friends, "They're just really sweet. Everyone deserves to feel this love." But if your well-being starts to depend on their reactions, if you feel lost without their approval, you may be in the grip of manipulation rather than genuine care. This tactic often plays out most powerfully in the evening when your mind is winding down and your emotions are closer to the surface. You lie in bed replaying the compliments they gave you, the songs they dedicated, the texts they sent at midnight. You feel both excited and worried. Excited at the love you believe they hold for you, and worried that it could slip away. Your thoughts race, and it's hard to drift into sleep when your heart is still beating fast. So how can you protect yourself from being overwhelmed? First, slow down. True connection grows over time, not in a single evening. If someone is moving too fast, declaring love after days, or promising forever after moments, give yourself permission to take a step back. Take breaks from your phone. Set simple boundaries, such as waiting a few hours before replying to texts or limiting how much personal information you share at first. Notice if you feel pressured to respond immediately, and remind yourself that you deserve time to think. Second, look for consistency. Genuine affection is steady. It shows up day after day in small acts of kindness and support, even when life gets busy. Real care doesn't vanish at the first sign of imperfection. If someone's praise disappears just as suddenly as it arrived, ask yourself why. Do they only praise you when they want something? Do they criticize you to test your loyalty? Asking these questions isn't cynical, it's smart. It helps you see the difference between generosity and manipulation. Third, talk to someone you trust. When you're caught in the rush of love bombing, your thoughts can feel tangled. Sharing your experience with a friend or family member can bring clarity. They can remind you of your worth apart from someone's praise. They can help you see patterns you might miss when you're in the middle of it, and knowing you have a support system makes it easier to set limits without guilt. Fourth, practice self-validation. Write down the qualities you admire in yourself, your kindness, your talents, your values. Read them back when you feel swept away by someone else's words. This simple act reminds you that you are complete on your own and that someone else's praise can be appreciated but does not define you. Finally, remember that real love feels safe. It invites you to be yourself, flaws and all. It offers kindness when you make mistakes, understanding when you need space, and respect for your boundaries. It does not demand immediate devotion or force you into emotional dependence. It grows in quiet moments. A shared cup of tea, a thoughtful text checking on you, a steady presence when you're feeling low. By learning to recognize the initial rush of praise for what it often is, a tool to hook your emotions, you reclaim your peace and protect your heart. You can enjoy kindness and affection without losing sight of your own strength. And when you see love bombing for what it really is, you open yourself to the kind of steady, genuine care that lasts far beyond the thrill of the first compliment. Midnight texts. You are lying in bed, the lights are off, and your breathing has finally slowed. You feel your body begin to relax, your mind drifting closer to that peaceful space where sleep begins. Then suddenly, ping, a message lights up. Your phone. It's them. Again. Not a simple good night or a kind thought, but something urgent, something emotional, something that immediately pulls your mind away from rest and straight back into stress. Midnight texts like these are not just about talking late, they are about control. At first, it might seem sweet, someone reaching out because they can't sleep without talking to you, or they miss your voice too much. But slowly, these late-night messages become more intense, more frequent, and harder to ignore. They don't just want to chat. They want answers. They want reactions. They want you fully awake and engaged, even when your body is begging for rest. The timing is not random. They wait until you're most vulnerable, right as you're starting to relax, right as your mind is beginning to disconnect from the day. Why? Because they know you're tired, which means you're less likely to question their words. You're less likely to set a boundary or push back. Your mind is foggy, your defenses are down, and all you want is peace. That's when they strike. These midnight messages often carry a strange urgency. I need to talk to you right now. Something's wrong. Can you please reply? They may even make you feel guilty for not being available. I thought you cared. Why are you ignoring me? And just like that, your calm has been replaced with tension. Your heart beats faster, your thoughts race, and sleep slips farther and farther away. Sometimes the texts come disguised as deep conversations. They might say, "I've been thinking about us," or "I feel like you're distant lately." At 3 a.m., when you're half asleep and alone in the dark, these messages feel 10 times heavier. You might lie awake for hours thinking about what they said, trying to make sense of their words, or typing and retyping your replies. They don't just disturb your sleep, they hijack your mind. Over time, this pattern creates a loop. You start to expect their messages at night. You feel anxious before going to bed, wondering if they'll text. You might even stay awake longer just in case they reach out. Your body begins to associate nighttime with stress instead of rest. And slowly, without realizing it, your sleep cycle is no longer yours. It belongs to them. What makes this especially powerful is how subtle it can be. If someone yelled at you or demanded you stay up all night, you might recognize it as unhealthy. But when the control comes in the form of "I miss you" or "I need you," it's harder to see. You want to be there for them. You want to show you care. So you answer, and they know you will. But the cost is high. When your sleep is broken, night after night, your mind and body begin to suffer. You feel more tired during the day, more emotional, more forgetful. Your focus slips. Your health can even decline. And the worst part? You might blame yourself. You might think you're just not managing your time well, or that you're simply a light sleeper. But this isn't about you. It's about someone else using your compassion against you. So, what can you do? The first step is awareness. Notice the pattern. Pay attention to when they reach out and how it makes you feel. Do you feel calm after their messages or anxious? Do their words bring you peace or pressure? If the answer is pressure, it's okay to admit that something isn't right. Next, take small steps to reclaim your nights. Start by turning off notifications before bed. Leave your phone outside your room, or switch it to Do Not Disturb. You don't have to explain it to anyone. Your rest is your right. You don't need to be available 24/7 to prove you care. If you feel comfortable, gently set a boundary. You could say, "I'm working on getting better sleep, so I won't be replying to messages after a certain time." If they respect you, they'll understand. If they don't, their response will tell you something important. It can also help to build a calming bedtime routine that doesn't involve your phone. Read a book, take a warm shower, listen to soft music, or write in a journal. These small actions remind your body and mind that nighttime is for rest, not stress. Over time, you'll begin to feel the difference. Another powerful step is to reflect on your feelings. Ask yourself, why do I feel the need to reply right away? Am I afraid they'll be upset if I don't? Do I worry they'll stop caring about me? These questions may be hard, but they help you understand where the pressure really comes from. And once you see it, you can begin to let it go. Sometimes we hold on to unhealthy patterns because we fear losing someone. But remember this: anyone who truly cares about you will want you to sleep. They will encourage your peace, not interrupt it. They will celebrate your growth, not tie you to their needs. And if someone gets upset because you chose to take care of yourself, it's worth asking whether their love is love or just control in disguise. The hardest part of breaking this cycle is guilt. You may feel like you're abandoning someone by not answering their messages. But it's not abandonment to choose rest. It's not selfish to protect your health. You can care about someone and still care about yourself. In fact, true care starts with you. As you begin to reclaim your nights, you may notice a shift. Your mind becomes clearer. Your heart feels lighter. You begin to dream again, both literally and figuratively. You start to remember what peace feels like. You realize that sleep isn't just a basic need, it's a sacred space. A space where your mind heals, your body restores, and your soul breathes. Midnight texts may seem small, just a message on a screen, but they have the power to shape your nights, your thoughts, and your sense of freedom. By choosing rest, by turning off the noise, and by honoring your need for peace, you take that power back. And in doing so, you give yourself the most beautiful gift, the chance to sleep, undisturbed, in a world that is finally quiet. Blame shifting. Have you ever been told that you are the reason someone behaved badly, even when you know you did nothing wrong? Imagine feeling the weight of their anger, guilt, or hurt laid squarely on your shoulders, as if every harsh word, every cruel action came because of something you did or didn't do This is blame shifting, a tactic used by those who refuse to own their own choices, instead pointing fingers at you to distract from their own behavior. At night, when your mind should be winding down, you replay their accusations over and over, wondering if somehow you really caused their pain. When someone shifts blame onto you, it feels like standing in the eye of a storm while they punch the air around you. They may raise their voice or speak in a quiet, cutting tone, but either way, you feel the impact. You're left scrambling for explanations, looking for mistakes you might have made, and questioning your own intentions. Their words echo in your mind long after they've said them, making it hard to find peace or rest. You may lie awake, heart pounding, replaying every moment of the day, searching for proof that you weren't the cause of their anger. Blame shifting often begins subtly. A small criticism here, a passing comment there. If you hadn't asked that question, I wouldn't have gotten upset. Or, I only yelled because you never listen. At first, you chalk it up to stress or misunderstanding. You apologize, you explain, you promise to do better. But once they see that your guilt keeps you anxious and eager to please, they repeat it. Each apology you offer becomes another tool they can use to prove that you are the problem, reinforcing their own sense of power. Over time, you start to believe their narrative. You begin to doubt yourself. You wonder if you really are too sensitive, too demanding, or too selfish. You question your own memory. Did I really say that? Did I really do that? Their blame seeps into your mind like ink on fabric, coloring every thought until you can't see clearly. You become so focused on fixing their accusations that you lose sight of your own feelings. You stop trusting your instincts and start living to avoid the next wave of blame. In the darkness of night, blame shifting can be especially cruel. It disturbs the very moments when you need rest, filling your mind with fear and self-doubt. You might wake in the early hours, heart racing, replaying every interaction, trying to find a way to make things right. Sleep becomes elusive because your mind is tangled in their accusations. The longer you stay awake, the weaker you feel, and the more you begin to believe that you truly are the cause of their pain. Science tells us that our brains need calm and clarity to store memories correctly. When you're stressed and anxious, your brain struggles to process events accurately. Under blame shifting, your memories of conversations or actions become hazy and uncertain. You may recall an argument one way, while your partner recalls it another. Because you're tired and vulnerable, their version often feels more believable. This mismatch in memories leads to more doubt and more blame from them, deepening the cycle of confusion. So how do you break free from blame shifting? It starts with recognizing it for what it is, a refusal to take responsibility. When someone blames you for their own choices, they are protecting themselves from feeling guilt. They want to keep you busy apologizing, explaining, and trying to fix what isn't broken. The first step is to name it. When they accuse you, think to yourself, this is blame shifting. Remind yourself that their anger is not your fault.
Yeah. Palasok, initiated versuve, hafi, etteleber ipanim, gorleros enemy a sector, side baltic with sex gepor, frinquam, near deep, let's.
Next, create a boundary around their accusations. You might say, I hear that you're upset. I did not cause this. Let's talk when we both are calmer. If they continue to press blame, calmly repeat your boundary and step away. Physical. Distance can help create mental space. Go into another room or take a walk. You don't need to engage in a battle you can't win. By refusing to take responsibility for what isn't yours, you protect your own peace. Another useful tool is to keep a simple journal of events. Write down what you remember, how you felt, and what was said. This journal is not meant to prove anything to them, but to remind you of your own truth. When their accusations swirl in your mind, you can review your notes and see that you have not been the cause of their behavior. Over time, this practice rebuilds your confidence and helps you trust your memories again. It can also help to talk with someone outside the situation, a trusted friend, family member, or therapist. Sharing your experience with someone who can listen without judgment gives you a fresh perspective. They can remind you of your worth and help you see patterns you may have missed while you were caught in the blame cycle. Having this support reinforces the idea that you are not alone and that what you're experiencing is not normal or acceptable. In moments of doubt, practice a simple exercise. Breathe in slowly for a count of 4, hold for 2, then breathe out for 6. Repeat this a few times. This breathing resets your nervous system, helping you move from panic back to calm. In that calm, you can remember that their blame is a tactic, not the truth. You can ground yourself in the present moment, where you know you are safe and that you did your best. As you strengthen your boundaries and rebuild your trust in yourself, you'll notice a change. The moments when blame emerges will still sting, but they will no longer uproot you completely. You'll find that their accusations bounce off you rather than embedding themselves in your mind. You'll sleep more soundly because your mind will no longer be a battlefield for arguments that aren't yours to fight. Forgiving yourself is also crucial. When you're under constant blame, you may carry guilt as if you truly were at fault. Remind yourself daily, I am not responsible for their choices. Say it out loud. Look in the mirror and own your truth. This self-forgiveness is like a shield, protecting you from the arrows of their accusations. Remember that respect and love are built on responsibility, not blame. When someone cares for you, they own their feelings and their actions. They don't leave you scrambling to fix what's not broken. If someone truly values you, they will apologize when they hurt you, not shift the blame back onto you. Keep this in mind as you choose which relationships to nourish and which to walk away from. Blame shifting may have once made you feel small, guilty, and responsible for someone else's pain. But as you practice these steps, naming the tactic, setting boundaries, using a journal, seeking support, and forgiving yourself, you reclaim your power. You learn to stand firm in your own reality, knowing that you are not the cause of their choices. In this process, you not only protect yourself from their manipulation, but rediscover your own strength and worth. Eventually, you will no longer fear their accusations. You will meet them with calm confidence, knowing that their blame says more about them than about you. You'll sleep again without rehashing old arguments, because your mind is free from the fog of guilt they once created. And in that clear, quiet space, you'll remember who you truly are: strong, capable, and deserving of respect. Hoover calls. Have you ever experienced the sudden and unexpected return of someone you thought was long gone, with nothing but sweet words and apologies to draw you back in? It's almost like a vacuum, sucking you back into their world of manipulation and emotional turmoil. The Hoover call is one of the most insidious tactics used by narcissists to regain control over you after they've pushed you away. It's not about genuine remorse or a desire to change. It's simply a way for them to reassert their dominance and ensure that you're still emotionally tied to them, ready to fall back into the same toxic cycle. The moment they disappear, you might feel a sense of relief, thinking you've finally escaped their grasp. You begin to heal, to find peace, and to regain the clarity that you lost during the time spent with them. But then, like clockwork, you hear from them. It's a message, a phone call, a text, or even a direct visit. Their tone is soft, sincere, and filled with apologies. They may tell you how much they've missed you, how sorry they are for the hurt they caused, and how they've changed. In their eyes, they might even seem remorseful, but underneath, the motive is clear. They want to reel you back into their world of manipulation. The Hoover call is often timed with precision. After a period of silence, when you have begun to find your footing and distance yourself from the emotional roller coaster they put you on, they strike. It's as if they've been watching you, waiting for the perfect moment when you are most vulnerable, or when you have begun to let go of them. They know that you've been struggling with mixed feelings, and they use your need for closure and understanding to pull you back into their orbit. At first, it can be easy to fall for their charm once again. After all, we all crave validation, especially after we've been emotionally drained. When someone tells you that they miss you and regret their actions, it's hard not to feel a sense of relief. It's tempting to believe that this time things will be different, that they've finally understood the damage they've caused and are ready to change for the better. But this hope is fleeting, and that's exactly what they
rely on.
They know exactly what to say to tug at your heartstrings, to make you feel like they are the only one who truly understands you, and to make you question the decision to cut them out of your life. This behavior can often leave you confused, as it doesn't seem to match the cold, dismissive attitude they displayed before. You might find yourself questioning whether their change is real, or if you're just being pulled back into a toxic cycle of manipulation. The reality is that these apologies are rarely genuine. Narcissists tend to see people as tools for their own benefit, and when they've lost control, they will go to great lengths to regain it. The Hoover call is their way of reminding you of the good times, of reigniting your emotional attachment to them, and of ensuring that you don't break free completely. It's not uncommon for narcissists to change their approach in these Hoover calls. They might offer heartfelt apologies, express deep regret, and even promise to do better. They may claim they've been working on themselves, seeking therapy, or making significant changes in their life. However, these promises are often empty. The narcissist's ability to apologize is usually rooted in manipulation rather than a true desire for self-improvement. They will say whatever it takes to get you to lower your defenses and let them back into your life. The emotional impact of a Hoover call can be overwhelming. One moment, you're living your life, free from the emotional chaos they caused, and the next, you're back to questioning everything. Their words can stir up emotions you thought were buried, and suddenly, you may find yourself doubting whether you made the right choice in walking away. But it's important to remember that their words are just that. Words. Their actions, or lack thereof, tell the true story. It's easy to get caught up in the temporary relief that comes with their apologies. The narcissist may remind you of the good moments, the memories you shared, or the love they once gave you. But in reality, these moments were likely few and far between, overshadowed by their manipulative behaviors and emotional abuse. They want you to remember the good times, so you'll overlook the bad and give them another chance. It's a trap, one that you must avoid if you want to protect yourself from falling into their grasp once more. In the wake of a Hoover call, it's crucial to stay grounded and remind yourself of the reasons you walked away in the first place. Reflect on the emotional toll they took on you, the way they manipulated your thoughts and feelings, and how they made you doubt your own worth. Their return isn't a sign of change. It's a sign of desperation. They want control again, and they will do whatever it takes to get it. The moment you give in to their hoovering, you open yourself up to the same toxic patterns that drained you before. One of the most important things to remember when faced with a Hoover call is that you don't owe them anything. You don't owe them your forgiveness, your time, or your energy. They may try to make you feel guilty, to remind you of the good old days when everything was seemingly perfect. But that's a tactic to distract you from the reality of the situation, their inability to respect boundaries, their constant need for control, and their lack of true empathy. If you find yourself struggling with a Hoover call, take a step back and give yourself space to process the situation. Don't rush into a response or make any decisions in the heat of the moment. Often, the best course of action is no action at all. Let their words hang in the air and take time to reflect on how they made you feel. Reach out to a trusted friend, therapist, or support group to help you navigate the emotions that may arise. Setting boundaries is key in dealing with Hoover calls. If you decide that you don't want to engage with the narcissist, don't be afraid to block their number, mute their messages, or delete their contact information. Protect your peace because they will stop at nothing to regain your attention and affection. A simple, firm message such as, "I don't wish to continue this conversation," is often the best way to shut down any attempts to manipulate or control the situation. It's important to reinforce your boundaries and remember that you have the right to live your life free from emotional turmoil. Hoover calls may be powerful, but they don't have to win. The key to breaking free from their control lies in recognizing the pattern and choosing not to fall for it. you have the strength to resist their attempts to reel you back in, and in doing so, you protect your peace and your emotional well-being. You are not obligated to reopen the door to someone who has repeatedly shown that they cannot be trusted. Stand firm in your decision to move forward and leave behind the toxic patterns that no longer serve you. Emotion withdrawal. Have you ever felt the sudden and chilling distance from someone you once felt emotionally connected to? The person who used to show warmth and affection seems to suddenly shut down, leaving you confused and anxious. It's as if their emotions are locked behind a wall, and no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to break through. This sudden emotional withdrawal can be one of the most distressing tactics used by narcissists, and it's designed to leave you in a state of emotional turmoil. They know exactly what they're doing when they pull away, spiking your anxiety, and creating an overwhelming urge to reach out to them, desperately trying to bring back the warmth you once had. It's not just about feeling ignored, it's the deliberate, calculated coldness they display. At first, everything feels normal. You're engaging in conversations, sharing laughs, and experiencing the emotional connection that once felt so secure. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, their attitude shifts. They become distant, aloof, or even cold. What was once a warm relationship now feels like a barren, empty space. You're left with questions. Why are they suddenly so distant? What did I do wrong? Why don't they want to talk to me? And as these questions swirl in your mind, your anxiety starts to rise. The key here is understanding that this emotional withdrawal is not about you. It's about control. Narcissists thrive on the power they hold over others, and one of their favorite ways to maintain that control is by manipulating your emotions. By withdrawing affection, they're creating a void in your emotional world. This void, however, isn't something you're supposed to ignore or accept. Instead, it becomes something you're driven to fix, to fill. You want the affection and validation that you once received, and they know that. So when they pull away, they're essentially pushing you into a corner, making you feel as though you must chase after them to regain what was lost. The emotional withdrawal often leaves you feeling powerless, unsure of how to proceed. It creates an internal tug-of-war. On one hand, you want to reach out, to try and fix things, but on the other hand, you feel hurt and confused by their sudden change in behavior. You might find yourself thinking, "What did I do wrong? Was it something I said? Why is this happening?" These thoughts can easily become overwhelming as the narcissist's behavior starts to take center stage in your mind. They've effectively hijacked your emotional state, and you're left scrambling to make sense of what's going on. This anxiety, this feeling of emotional instability, is exactly what the narcissist wants. They know that by withdrawing, they can keep you on edge, constantly wondering what's going on, always waiting for a sign that things will go back to the way they were. They know that you'll reach out, that you'll try to fix things, and that this will give them the power to control the narrative. By keeping you in this state of uncertainty, they've created a situation where you feel obligated to perform, to prove that you care, to get the validation you crave. The narcissist's withdrawal isn't just about the physical absence, it's about the emotional absence as well. They don't just stop talking to you, they stop showing any sign of warmth, care, or affection. The smiles, the compliments, the attention you once enjoyed suddenly vanish. Instead, you're left with silence, or worse, indifference. This emotional coldness can feel like a punch to the gut because it undermines your sense of self-worth. You start questioning if you're not enough, if you're somehow at fault for the shift in their behavior. The narcissist, of course, has no intention of reassuring you. They want you to feel like you're the one who's failing, like you're the one who needs to prove your worth. This emotional withdrawal also serves as a way for the narcissist to manipulate your behavior. They know that you'll start reaching out, sending messages, trying to get them to open up, or trying to make things right. You'll start bending over backwards, offering apologies or doing things to get their attention. In this moment, you're giving them exactly what they want: your emotional energy, your time, and your focus. The more you chase after them, the more control they gain. You're essentially playing into their hands, and they're using your need for emotional connection as a way to keep you hooked. For someone on the receiving end of this tactic, it can be incredibly difficult to break free from the cycle. But the emotional withdrawal doesn't just leave you feeling rejected, it leaves you questioning everything. You may start thinking, is this really who they are? Or is this just a phase? You may convince yourself that if you try harder, if you show them more love or attention, they'll come back around. But the reality is, this is not a phase. It's a pattern of behavior designed to keep you in a state of anxiety, constantly striving for validation from someone who is unwilling to give it to you freely. If you've ever found yourself reaching out repeatedly after a narcissist has withdrawn emotionally, you know the feeling of desperation that comes with it. You want to fix things, you want to feel loved and validated again, but the more you chase after them, the more distant they become. It's a never-ending cycle that keeps you stuck in a place of emotional instability. It's important to recognize that this is not your fault. The narcissist is actively working to create this dynamic, to keep you in a position where you feel constantly unsure and emotionally drained. Breaking free from this cycle requires a shift in perspective. First, you need to acknowledge that their emotional withdrawal is not a reflection of your worth. It's a tactic, a manipulation. The next step is to resist the urge to reach out, to give them the emotional attention they're seeking. This might be difficult at first, but with time you'll start to realize that by not engaging in their game, you are taking back control. You are no longer allowing their emotional withdrawal to dictate your emotional state. Instead, you're choosing to focus on your own well-being, your own peace, and your own emotional health. The key to overcoming this tactic is to understand that you deserve a relationship where emotional closeness and affection are given freely, without manipulation or control. You don't have to chase after someone who is emotionally distant, and you don't need to settle for a relationship that leaves you feeling uncertain and anxious. The more you learn to let go of the need for validation from someone who is emotionally unavailable, the more you can regain your sense of self-worth and emotional stability. In the end, the emotional withdrawal is a game, one designed to keep you hooked. But with awareness and self-compassion, you can break free from the cycle and reclaim your emotional well-being. Don't let their coldness define you. Choose to step away from the manipulation and find the peace and clarity that you deserve. Mind fog. Have you ever felt like your thoughts are spinning in circles and you can't tell what's real anymore? Like every time you try to think clearly, something blocks your mind with confusion? That's not just stress or tiredness. It can be a tactic used by someone who wants to control you without you even noticing. This method is subtle, yet powerful. They create a fog in your mind by sending mixed messages, changing their words, and twisting conversations in ways that leave you feeling lost. It's not about a single lie or a simple mistake. It's a consistent pattern designed to wear you down over time until you begin to doubt your own memory and even your own sense of truth. This is called mind fog, and it's used to make you question everything. The person might say one thing in the morning and something completely different in the evening. When you point it out, they deny ever saying the first thing. You start to second-guess yourself. Maybe you misunderstood. Maybe you're too sensitive. Maybe you're wrong. These thoughts don't come from nowhere. They are the result of being hit again and again with confusing messages that are meant to distract and disorient you. They want your brain to be tired so you stop thinking for yourself and start depending on them to make sense of things. Mind fog doesn't hit all at once. It grows slowly, like a thick cloud spreading across a clear sky. At first you think it's just a bad day or a small misunderstanding. But then it happens again and again. The person might say, "I never said that," even though you clearly remember the conversation. Or they might give you instructions, then later blame you for following them the wrong way. Every time you try to defend yourself, the goalpost moves. The truth keeps changing, and slowly, your confidence in your own mind starts to fade. When someone constantly fills your mind with confusion, your body starts to react. You feel tired, even after sleeping. Your heart races when it shouldn't. You can't relax because your brain never shuts off. You replay conversations over and over, trying to figure out where things went wrong. But you never find a clear answer because the person doesn't want you to find one. They want you stuck in that fog, unsure of yourself and relying on them to tell you what's true. That gives them control and takes your peace away. What makes this even harder is that these people often appear calm and confident. They don't shout or lose control. They smile and speak in soft voices. They say things like, "I'm just trying to help," or "You must be tired, that's why you're confused." These statements sound kind, but they're actually part of the plan. They are planting the idea in your mind that your thoughts can't be trusted, and that their version of the story is the only one that makes sense. And because you want peace, you might start going along with them, even when it feels wrong deep inside. Over time, you might feel like you're losing yourself. Things that once felt simple now seem hard. You hesitate before making small decisions. You constantly seek reassurance. Your focus slips, your confidence drops, and your joy fades. This is what the fog does. It steals your mental clarity and emotional strength until all that's left is a quiet, constant confusion. The person causing this might act like everything is normal, even helpful, but the results speak for themselves. You feel worse, not better. You feel less sure of who you are. One of the most painful effects of mind fog is how it changes your view of the world. You might start to avoid conversations because you're afraid of saying the wrong thing. You may stay quiet even when something is bothering you, just to avoid more confusion. You may even start to isolate yourself from others who try to help because you're not sure who to believe anymore. The fog spreads from inside your mind to your whole life, dimming your connection with the people who truly care about you. But here's the truth. This fog is not your fault. It was placed there piece by someone who wanted to keep you confused. And while it may feel like you're lost in a storm, you are not powerless. The first step is to recognize what's happening. Understand that the confusion you feel is not because you are weak. It's because someone is working hard to make you feel that way. Once you name it, you can begin to clear it. Clearing the mind fog starts with trusting yourself again. Begin by writing things down: conversations, promises, events. This can help you see patterns and confirm what actually happened. Speak with someone you trust, someone who doesn't twist your words. Notice how your body feels around different people. When someone's presence brings peace, that's a good sign. When someone leaves you anxious and confused, take a step back. You don't need to figure everything out at once, but each small moment of clarity is a light that cuts through the fog. Another helpful step is setting boundaries. If someone constantly makes you feel confused, limit the time you spend around them. You don't have to explain yourself or make them understand. Your peace is reason enough. Protect your space. Create routines that ground you, like going for walks, listening to calming music, or writing down your thoughts. Slowly, you'll begin to see the fog lifting. Your mind will feel clearer, and your heart will feel stronger. You are not broken. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You are someone who has been surrounded by confusion for too long. And now you are learning to see clearly again. You're learning to trust your thoughts, your memory, your feelings. That's not just healing. It's power. The power to step out of the fog and into your own light. And once you begin to clear your mind, you may notice how much calmer your nights become. You're no longer replaying those mixed messages in your head before sleep. You're not lying awake wondering what's real. Instead, you feel a quiet strength returning to you. You remember who you are and what's true. That clarity helps you rest deeply, without fear, without confusion. The mind fog might have held you back, but it doesn't define you. You are more than the confusion you were made to feel. You are someone who is waking up to the truth, and that truth will guide you out of the darkness. Trust that process. Take small steps, and remember, every moment of clarity is a step closer to peace. Fear trigger. What would you do if someone made you feel like they could leave you at any moment? If every time you spoke up or disagreed, they hinted that you might lose them forever? Imagine living with that kind of fear quietly growing in your chest, making you second-guess every word, every choice, every breath. This fear isn't always loud. It's not always shouted. Sometimes it's whispered in a tone that sounds soft, but the meaning cuts deep. That fear becomes a tool, used to control, to silence, to keep you stuck. It's called the fear trigger, and it's one of the most powerful emotional traps someone can place you in. The fear trigger works by creating a sense of threat. Not a direct danger, but the fear of losing something important. This might be love, safety, approval, or even the relationship itself. The person might not say, "I will leave you," but they'll say things like, "Maybe I made a mistake being with you," or "If this keeps happening, I don't know how much longer I can stay." Words like these hang in the air like heavy fog. They don't break you down all at once. Instead, they slowly teach you to stay quiet, to not push back, to walk on eggshells, just so they don't walk away. This kind of fear isn't always about romantic relationships either. It can show up in families, friendships, or even at work. It's the fear of disappointing someone who always makes you feel like you have to earn their love. It's the fear of losing peace in the moment because you dared to speak the truth. And once that fear is planted in your heart, it grows quietly. You may not even notice it right away. But soon, you realize you're doing more to please them and less to care for yourself. They may use silence as a weapon, pulling away when you've done something they don't like, without explaining why. That sudden emptiness you feel, it's meant to teach you a lesson. Next time, you'll think twice before you say something they disagree with. Over time, your world becomes smaller. Not because you don't have choices, but because your fear tells you not to use them. You stop asking for things. You stop expressing yourself. You live inside a quiet panic that you try to hide, even from yourself. The fear trigger often hits hardest at night. As you try to fall asleep, your mind replays the day's moments, what you said, how they looked at you, that cold message, or the long pause before they responded. You wonder if they're angry, if they're pulling away, if you've done something wrong. You keep checking your phone. You reread the conversation again and again. Your body is tired, but your heart is on edge. And that fear keeps you from resting, from relaxing, from healing. What's so dangerous about this fear is that it becomes normal. You adjust to it. You get used to holding your breath in conversations. You get used to saying, sorry, even, when you did nothing wrong. You become someone who's always watching, always careful, always shrinking. But this isn't who you truly are. It's just who you became in the presence of someone who used fear to keep you close. And the more you shrink, the easier it becomes for them to stay in control. You might think, but I don't want to lose them. And that's a very human feeling. Wanting connection is natural. Wanting love is beautiful. But love that depends on fear isn't love. It's control. When someone makes you feel like you'll be abandoned for simply being yourself, that's not a real connection. That's a game built on power, and you're the one paying the price. And the truth is, people who use the fear trigger often know exactly what they're doing. They time their comments when you're vulnerable, late at night during a quiet moment, or after you've opened your heart. They don't yell. They don't always accuse. Instead, they drop hints, plant doubt, and let the silence do the rest. That's why it feels so confusing. You don't have a clear reason to be afraid, but you feel afraid anyway. That's emotional pressure, and it's designed to keep you frozen. But here's the light in the dark. Once you understand this pattern, you begin to take back your power. You begin to realize that your worth does not depend on someone staying, that you are allowed to speak your truth without being punished. That real connection welcomes honesty and supports your growth, even when it's uncomfortable. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not unlovable. The fear you've been feeling isn't a sign that you're broken. It's a signal that something isn't right in the way you're being treated, and you are allowed to name that. You're allowed to question it. You are allowed to ask, why do I always feel scared to be myself? Because your peace matters. Your sleep matters. Your mind deserves to rest. If someone truly cares for you, They won't make you feel like you're walking a tightrope. They won't place fear in your heart just to keep you close. They won't punish you with silence or distance. They'll create a space where you can breathe, where you can speak, where you can rest, without fear of losing everything. You don't have to keep proving your worth to someone who never sees it. You don't have to tiptoe through conversations or trade your peace for temporary closeness. It's okay to want love. But it's also okay to protect your heart from love that hurts. Let this be a gentle reminder. Your value is not measured by someone else's mood. Your truth is not wrong just because it makes someone uncomfortable. And your fear? It's not a weakness, it's a warning. Listen to it. Let it guide you back to safety. Let it guide you back to yourself. Because when fear no longer controls you, your nights will begin to change. You'll notice your body softening, your breath deepening, your mind is quieting. No more spinning thoughts, no more panic. Just the comfort of knowing that you are safe within your own truth. That's where peace begins. That's where real rest lives. And that's what you deserve. Anxiety injection. Have you ever felt a sudden wave of worry and you couldn't even explain why? Like everything seemed fine, but deep down, something didn't feel right. That feeling doesn't always come from inside you. Sometimes it's placed there, quietly and carefully, by someone who knows exactly how to make you uneasy. This kind of emotional tension isn't loud or obvious. It creeps in slowly, like a quiet storm you can't see, but you can feel. It's an anxiety injection, where someone plants little seeds of doubt and worry just to keep you unsettled, just enough to keep your peace out of reach. When you're with someone who uses this kind of emotional tactic, it's never just about what's being said. It's also about what's not being said. The pauses, the looks, the messages left hanging. They may say something small like, "You really trust people too easily," or, "I wonder what you'd do if I wasn't around." Words like these don't sound too harsh, but they echo long after they're said. They cause you to rethink, to question, to worry. And that's exactly the point. They want you to be unsure, to keep you from relaxing, from feeling stable. Because someone who's always worried is someone who's easier to control. Anxiety doesn't always come in the form of yelling or conflict. Sometimes it's gentle and disguised as concern. Maybe they ask you why you're so close to certain friends, or they suddenly act distant after you've had a good day. Maybe they don't respond to your messages for hours, then say, "Oh, I was just busy, no big deal," while you spent the entire evening wondering what you did wrong. These moments seem small on their own, but when they happen again and again, they create a pattern, one where your calmness is constantly under attack. You begin to notice the changes in yourself. Maybe you used to feel confident in your choices. Now you double-check everything you do. Maybe you used to sleep well, but now your nights are restless, filled with overthinking. Your stomach feels tight. Your heart races over little things. You check your phone too often, worried about how they'll respond, or if they'll respond at all. These are signs that anxiety has become normal. But it didn't start with you. It started with someone who knew how to make you feel unsure on purpose. When you live in this kind of emotional space, even peaceful moments feel suspicious. If everything is quiet, you wonder what's going to go wrong. If they're being kind, you wonder how long it will last. This constant tension pulls your attention away from your needs, your dreams, your sleep, your life. You're always alert, like something is about to break, but nothing ever fully breaks. That's what keeps you stuck. The uncertainty, the invisible weight on your chest that won't let you relax. And what makes this even more damaging is that it can feel invisible to others. If you try to explain it, people may not understand. They didn't say anything that bad. Someone might tell you. But it's not about the words. It's about the feeling behind them. The energy they bring into your space. The way you suddenly feel unsafe in a conversation that seems innocent. The way they make you doubt your memories, your feelings, your instincts. It's a quiet kind of chaos. One that makes you question everything, especially yourself. This constant worry doesn't just affect your emotions. It touches every part of your life. Your body holds on to the stress. Your shoulders stay tense. Your breathing gets shallow. You start to avoid situations that might trigger them, even if you don't fully understand what those triggers are. You change your behavior to avoid their coldness, their silence, their subtle punishments. And all the while, your own peace drifts farther away, like something you can see but can't reach. But here's something important to remember. Your anxiety is not proof that you are weak. It's proof that you've been placed in a situation that makes you feel unsafe. You are not too emotional. You are not overreacting. Your mind and body are simply responding to a pattern of emotional pressure that you did not choose. Healing begins when you can name what's happening. When you can say, "This worry doesn't belong to me. It was planted here." When you start to notice the difference between your true thoughts and the ones you were taught to believe. The truth is, you deserve relationships that bring calm, not chaos. You deserve to sleep at night without second-guessing every moment of your day. You deserve to feel free in your own mind. Someone who truly cares for you won't make you feel like your peace is something you have to fight for. They won't send mixed signals or use silence as punishment. They won't keep you anxious so you stay close. Real care brings comfort. Real care brings stillness. Real care allows you to breathe. And when you start to remove yourself from the space where anxiety was injected into your life, you'll begin to notice changes. You'll feel your shoulders loosen. You'll hear your own thoughts more clearly. You'll rest easier without that familiar tightness in your chest. Your phone won't make your heart race anymore. You'll stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because peace, real peace, doesn't come from walking on eggshells. It comes from knowing you're safe just as you are. You don't have to earn your right to rest. You don't have to keep fixing things that you didn't break. The worry you carry isn't who you are. It's something you were taught to hold. And now, slowly, gently, you can begin to let it go. So tonight, as you breathe in deeply and feel the rhythm of your heartbeat, remind yourself, you are not the problem. The anxiety was never yours to carry. And with each calm breath, you're taking a step closer to yourself, to your peace, to your healing, to your quiet strength. That's what they could never control, and that's what you are finally reclaiming. Phantom critique. Have you ever been criticized for something you didn't even do? Or worse, for something that doesn't even make sense? It's like walking into a room and being told you left a mess, even though you were never there. This kind of emotional confusion can leave you feeling lost, frustrated, and unsure of your own truth. That's what a phantom critique feels like. It's not about real mistakes. It's about being made to feel like you're always wrong, even when you've done nothing at all. It starts in small ways. They might say something like, "You always make everything about you," even when you were just sharing your feelings. Or they might comment, "You're too sensitive," when you simply expressed hurt after something painful was said. These comments don't point out real issues. They twist your actions into something negative. And before you know it, you begin to wonder, did I actually do something wrong? You second-guess yourself, even though deep down you know the truth. That's the power of phantom critiques. They haunt your mind, not because they're true, but because they're carefully designed to make you feel unsure. Over time, this pattern chips away at your confidence. You may start to apologize for things that aren't your fault. You may hesitate before speaking, scared that your words will be taken the wrong way. You might even stop sharing your thoughts or feelings altogether because every time you do, it seems like there's something wrong with you. You begin walking through life on alert, constantly checking yourself, questioning yourself. It's exhausting, but what's more, it's not your fault. Someone created this environment on purpose to make you question your own worth. One of the most confusing parts of phantom critiques is how subtle they can be. Sometimes it's not even about words. It's a look, a sigh, a cold silence after you say something. You feel like you disappointed them, but you don't even know why. You start searching for reasons, going over every little thing you said or did just to make sense of their reaction. But the truth is, there's no clear reason because there was never a real problem to begin with. They just wanted you to feel like there was. And it's not because they see flaws in you. It's because they want to create flaws for you to carry. This way, they can always hold something over you. They can keep you trying, explaining, defending. The more you try to prove yourself, the more control they have, because if you believe you're always a little bit wrong, then they always get to be a little bit right. That's how they keep the upper hand, by keeping you in a loop of self-doubt. This emotional pressure can follow you everywhere. You could be having a good day, feeling calm, and suddenly a comment from them brings all that doubt rushing back in. You feel like a child being scolded, even when there's nothing to scold. It can be confusing, disorienting, even paralyzing. And what's worse, it's hard to explain to others. If you try to tell someone what happened, they might say, "That doesn't sound like a big deal." But to you, it is a big deal, because it's not just about one comment. It's about a pattern that slowly erodes your self-esteem. What you might not realize right away is that these critics often say more about them than they do about you. They may be projecting their own insecurities, fears, or guilt. But instead of dealing with those feelings, they push them onto you. They can't face their own flaws, so they invent flaws in you. That way, they never have to take responsibility. Instead, they keep you busy trying to fix yourself, even though you were never broken. You may start to notice that no matter how much you try, it's never enough. If you stay quiet, they say you're cold. If you speak up, they say you're too much. If you ask for space, they say you're distant. If you ask for closeness, they say you're needy. The rules keep changing. The target keeps moving, and that's not a reflection of your behavior. It's a tactic to keep you unsure of where you stand. This emotional trap makes it hard to trust your own thoughts. But here's the truth that lives beneath it all. You are not the flaws they created. You are not the problem. The voice that tells you you're not enough wasn't your voice to begin with. It was planted there. And the moment you recognize that, you begin to take your power back. Healing from this kind of manipulation takes time. It starts with noticing the patterns. It grows when you begin to question the false critiques instead of yourself. It strengthens when you surround yourself with people who see your value, who lift you instead of weigh you down. Most importantly, it blossoms when you learn to speak gently to yourself again, to remind yourself that you are allowed to be human, to have feelings, to make mistakes, and still be worthy of love and kindness. You don't have to accept criticism that isn't real. You don't have to carry guilt that doesn't belong to you. The moment you realize that, you'll start to feel something beautiful returning, your peace. And when that peace returns even just a little, you'll sleep better. You'll breathe easier. You'll stop replaying conversations in your head, wondering what you did wrong, because you'll know you didn't do anything wrong. You were just made to believe you did. Tonight, as your body begins to rest and your mind quiets down, gently remind yourself, you are not those false stories. You are not the sum of someone else's projections. You are enough, you are good, and you are free to step away from anyone who makes you feel like you're not. Let that truth wrap around you like a blanket of calm. Let your heart beat slow, knowing that you are reclaiming your space, not just the room around you, but the space within you, that sacred, quiet place where no phantom critique can enter, where only your voice matters, and where peace finally begins to grow. Boundary violation. Have you ever said no, but they acted like you said yes? Have you ever asked for space, but they kept pushing closer? That sinking feeling you get in your stomach? That's what happens when someone doesn't just ignore your boundaries, but walks right through them as if they don't exist. It feels like your personal world is no longer yours. Your time, your emotions, your space, all taken, piece by piece, and repurposed for their control. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's done with charm or quiet pressure. But deep down, you feel it every time. Your lines are being crossed and your comfort no longer matters. At first it might look small. Maybe you asked for 5 minutes alone and they followed you into the next room. Or maybe you asked them not to read your messages and they did anyway, justifying it with a laugh or a reason that didn't feel right. You pause. You wonder if it's just you. You even question whether your boundaries were too much. But that's part of their tactic. When someone repeatedly dismisses your limits, they also make you question your right to have those limits at all. You might hear things like, "Don't be so dramatic," or "I was just trying to help." These phrases sound harmless, but they're not. They're subtle ways of saying, "What you want doesn't matter. What I want comes first." This isn't just about bad manners or carelessness. This is a deliberate way of showing power. Every time your boundary is ignored, it sends a message. Your comfort is negotiable. Your space is mine to take. And when that happens again and again, your sense of safety begins to fade. When someone continues to push past your boundaries, it can lead to deep confusion. One part of you wants to protect yourself, but another part of you is afraid of the backlash, afraid of being called selfish, cold, or too sensitive. So you give in. Not because you want to, but because it feels easier than the fight that always comes after. And the more you give in, the more they take. They don't thank you for your patience. They don't stop and reflect. They just keep going, and you feel smaller with each step. Soon, you might find yourself avoiding certain topics, people, or even parts of your own life, just to avoid another boundary being crossed. You start living around them, shrinking your world to avoid more conflict. This can make you feel trapped, not because there are walls around you, but because there's no longer a door you're allowed to close. Your boundaries aren't just ignored, they're erased. Sometimes the person violating your space might act like they care deeply about you. They'll say they're just looking out for you or wanting to be close. That makes it harder to notice the truth. You think, maybe I'm just being cold, or maybe I need to open up more. But love, real love, respects your lines. It asks permission. It listens. If someone can't hear your no without punishing you for it, they're not protecting you. They're controlling you. This kind of emotional pressure wears you down. You may stop asking for alone time. You may stop expressing your needs. You may even start to believe that having boundaries at all makes you selfish. That's exactly where they want you. Silent, pliable, and available. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. When you try to reclaim your space, they may suddenly react. They may call you distant. They may guilt you. They may say you're pulling away when all they want is closeness. But remember this: closeness is not the same as control. Real closeness honors who you are. It doesn't force you to give up pieces of yourself to make someone else feel powerful. It doesn't punish you for saying no, and it never asks you to shrink just to keep the peace. A major sign that your boundaries are being trampled is when your world no longer feels safe. You don't sleep as well. You overthink every message you send. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if you were too much or too little. You feel watched, even when you're alone. And most of all, you feel like your space, your own personal emotional space, is no longer yours to protect. But the truth is, it's still yours. It always was. You may have been led to believe otherwise, but your boundaries are not only valid, they are necessary. You deserve the right to say no without fear. You deserve to take a breath, take a step back, and not explain yourself. You deserve to lock your door, silence your phone, and protect your peace. And most of all, you deserve to feel safe in your body, in your mind, and in your space. Rebuilding that safety begins with small steps. Start by noticing when you feel uncomfortable. Don't explain it away. Just sit with it. That discomfort is your inner self asking for protection. Next, speak your limits clearly. You don't need to yell. You don't need to be convinced. Just say what feels right for you. If someone respects you, they'll listen. If they don't, you'll learn something important about how much space they think you're allowed to have. And if you've been living with boundary violations for a long time, it's okay to feel overwhelmed by the idea of standing up again. That fear is real. But so is your strength. The more you practice saying no, the more powerful your yes becomes. The more you honor your own limits, the more peaceful your life becomes. You'll start to sleep better. You'll start to feel lighter, not because everything around you changed, but because you finally stopped giving yourself away. So tonight, as you settle in and let your breath slow, give yourself this quiet truth. My space is mine. My peace matters. My boundaries are not a burden, they are a right. Let those words become your shield. Let them create a calm, strong energy around you. One that no one can cross without your permission. One that reminds you, even in the stillness of night, that you are safe in your own skin, that your space belongs to you, and always will. Emotion, flood. Have you ever felt like your heart is racing and your mind is running in circles all at once? Like you're drowning in emotions that don't even feel like your own? That, right there, is an emotional flood. It doesn't hit you. Like a quiet wave, it crashes down on you suddenly, leaving you confused, panicked, and unsure of what just happened. And while emotions are natural and human, this isn't about healthy feelings. This is about someone else pouring their emotions onto you. Not to connect with you, but to control you. And when it's done again and again, it becomes one of the most exhausting and confusing experiences you can live through. This emotional flood starts when someone uses intense feelings, like sudden anger, sadness, fear, or even love, in a way that throws you off balance. One moment everything seems calm, and the next they're crying, yelling, or accusing you. You're left wondering what just happened. You try to help. You try to understand. But nothing you say feels like the right thing. They keep coming at you with more emotion, louder, heavier, more urgent, and you get pulled deeper into the storm. It's not a conversation. It's not a disagreement. It's a wave meant to knock you over. And here's the most damaging part. In that moment, your brain shuts down. Not completely, but just enough. Your thinking slows. Your decision-making disappears. Instead of standing strong, you're just trying to survive. You go from asking, "Is this fair?" to asking, "How? Can I fix this fast?" That's the real goal of emotional flooding, to make you so overwhelmed that you stop thinking and start reacting. Not logically, not calmly, but in panic and guilt. In relationships like this, you're often made to feel responsible for their emotions. If they're upset, it's somehow your fault. If they're scared, it's because you didn't say the right thing. If they're heartbroken, it's because you didn't love them enough. Over time, this false responsibility weighs you down. You walk on eggshells, not because you're weak, but because you're trying to avoid another flood. You become more focused on their feelings than your own. You begin to forget what you even feel anymore. They might cry suddenly, accuse you of not caring, or even shower you with extreme praise and love all at once. These sharp emotional swings are confusing by design. They keep you guessing. They keep you focused on them. And most importantly, they keep you distracted from what you actually need or want at that moment. When you're constantly tending to someone else's emotions, your own thoughts become cloudy. You can't plan. You can't rest. You can't even sleep peacefully because your nervous system is stuck in high alert. And it's not always loud. Sometimes the flood comes in silence, too. A long, painful silence where you're left wondering what went wrong. You imagine worst-case scenarios in your head. You replay conversations. You blame yourself for things you never even did. That silence? It's part of the flood, too. It's the quiet pressure that fills your chest with anxiety until you finally give in, apologize, reach out, or agree to something just to end the emotional weight. This constant emotional chaos creates a loop. After every flood, there's a moment of calm. Sometimes they apologize. Sometimes they act like nothing happened. Sometimes they hold you like everything's okay. And for a moment, you believe it. You feel relief. But then it happens again. And again. Until the emotional flooding becomes normal to you. You might not even notice it anymore. It just becomes the background noise of your daily life. Over time, you become emotionally drained. It's not just mental. Your body feels tired too. You may struggle to sleep, to focus, to eat, or to feel joy. You might even start questioning yourself, am I too sensitive? Or, why can't I handle this better? But the truth is, it's not your weakness. It's their strategy. Emotional flooding is not just emotional. It's mental manipulation. And the more you're flooded, the harder it becomes to think clearly, let alone stand up for yourself. This tactic also damages your trust in your own feelings. You start second-guessing everything. Was that really unfair? Or was I overreacting? You become unsure of what's real. That's the danger, because once you lose trust in your own emotional compass, they have more control. They become your guide, not because they're right, but because they've drowned out your own voice. And this doesn't just affect one part of your life. It spills into everything: your friendships, your work, your peace. You may start pulling away from people because you're too tired to explain what you're going through. You may stop enjoying things you used to love. You may feel like you're always one step away from another wave. That constant fear changes you. It shrinks you. But you can come back to yourself. The first step is recognizing the flood for what it is. When emotions hit hard and fast, pause. Ask yourself, is this mine? Or is this being thrown at me? That one question can help you find solid ground. Next, give yourself permission to step away. You don't have to fix every feeling. You don't have to absorb their storm. You're allowed to protect your calm. Start noticing the patterns. Are the floods coming after you set a boundary? After you express your own feelings? After you ask for space? If so, then this isn't about love or connection. It's about control. And no one has the right to control you through emotional storms. Not with tears, not with anger, not even with love. If it feels like you're being emotionally drowned over and over again, you are not imagining it. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are reacting like any human would, trying to survive a storm that was never yours to carry. You deserve calm. You deserve peace. You deserve to be heard without being overwhelmed. And even if your voice is shaky right now, it still matters. Every time you step back from the flood, every time you say, I need a moment, or this doesn't feel right, you are reclaiming your power. It may not feel like much at first, but those small steps add up. And slowly, you begin to clear the fog. You begin to breathe again. Tonight, as your eyes grow heavy and the world grows quiet, let go of any storm that doesn't belong to you. Let your heart slow down. Let your breath deepen. You don't need to carry anyone else's chaos to prove you care. You don't need to lose yourself to keep someone else happy. You are not here to be flooded. You are here to float, to rest, to be free. So breathe. Let the emotions that are not yours drift away. And gently remind yourself, I deserve peace. I am safe. I am enough. Attention theft. Have you ever noticed how some people always find a way to make everything about them, no matter the time, the place, or how you're feeling? It's like they have a radar for your attention. The moment you begin to focus on yourself, your rest, your peace, or your own thoughts, they swoop in. With questions, stories, problems, or even just silence that screams for your energy. And over time, something strange begins to happen. You feel tired, mentally, emotionally, and physically. It's not the kind of tiredness that goes away with sleep. It's a deep exhaustion that slowly drains you because your attention is constantly being pulled in one direction, away from yourself. This is attention theft, and it's not just annoying. It's a form of slow, quiet manipulation. It doesn't feel dangerous at first. It can even look like love, neediness, or emotional closeness. But the pattern is clear. Whenever your mind tries to rest or focus on your own needs, someone else finds a way to pull your energy back toward them. They become the center of every conversation, every decision, every quiet moment. You stop being the main character in your own life. Imagine this. You're lying in bed, ready to drift into sleep, your body finally starting to relax. And then your phone lights up. A message, a call, a question that could easily wait until morning, but it never does. Because this person doesn't want you to rest. Not really. They want your attention, they want your focus, not because they need help, but because they need control. And the more they keep your mind busy, the less time you have to think for
Lika då antiseleja då mig hörda något fitness chuon on the sibo in aroma ja or is well or that chandid says babu hore
A guilt-filled glance that makes you drop everything and ask, "What's wrong?" And suddenly you're in a long emotional conversation that you didn't start and didn't ask for. But now you're fully involved, fully focused, and completely drained by the end of it. It happens again and again until it becomes your normal. You stop asking, "Do I want to do this right now?" and start thinking, "If I don't respond, they'll get upset." That quiet shift in thinking is where the real exhaustion begins. This kind of person needs to be the center of your attention not just sometimes, but constantly. They might interrupt you when you're working. They might talk over you during peaceful moments. They might pick a fight during the 1 hour you've set aside to relax. They might even demand compliments, reassurance, or emotional support when you're already struggling. And the hardest part? They often make it feel like your job to keep them happy, like their comfort is more important than your own peace. When someone is always demanding your attention, they're not just using your time. They're using your brain, they're using your heart, and they are slowly breaking down the space you need to recover, to dream, and to feel whole. Over time, you begin to forget what quiet feels like. You might even feel guilty when you finally get a moment to yourself. That guilt is not natural. It's learned. It's the result of someone teaching you that your attention belongs to them, and the more they take, the less you have left. Your creativity fades, your motivation fades, even your confidence can begin to disappear. You start second-guessing yourself. You become more reactive and less reflective. It's like your brain is always buzzing with noise that isn't yours, because every moment, every thought, every bit of mental energy is spent trying to stay one step ahead of their needs, their moods, their demands. Sometimes they'll dress it up as love. "I just miss you," they'll say, right when you need to focus. Or, "I need you right now," every time you try to rest. They'll ask for help that they don't really need, just to pull you in. They'll share problems, but never solutions. They'll praise you, but only when you're giving them full attention. And the second you turn away, the praise turns into complaints or silence. That's how they keep you hooked, through a constant cycle of attention and reaction. What makes this so confusing is that attention theft doesn't look harmful. It can even feel fluttering at first. It seems like they care so much, like they want to be close. But a true connection doesn't demand your energy every hour of every day. True connection allows you to rest, to be silent, to have space. When someone truly respects you, they don't fill every quiet moment with their voice or their needs. They allow you to breathe. But with attention thieves, silence is their enemy. Because when you're quiet, you might think. And when you think, you might begin to notice things. You might notice the imbalance. You might feel your own feelings. You might start to say no. And so, they fill the space before your thoughts can grow. They distract you from yourself with their constant noise. They make sure your energy flows in only one direction, toward them. Over time, your nervous system starts to live in survival mode. You stay alert, waiting for the next demand. Even when they're not speaking, your brain expects a message, a call, a sigh, a problem. You start to feel like you can't relax because rest equals guilt. You might even struggle to fall asleep, not because of stress, but because your mind doesn't know how to be still anymore. But there is a way out. It starts with small moments. It starts with recognizing when your attention is being pulled too far, too often. Ask yourself, does this person give back what they take? Do I feel calm after talking to them? Or do I feel drained? These questions are gentle lights that help you see the pattern. Then, start protecting your space. It's okay to pause before replying. It's okay to put your phone away. It's okay to say, "I'll talk later," and mean it. At first, it may feel scary, you may feel selfish, but you're not being selfish, you're being whole. You're reclaiming the energy that was always yours. You can also begin creating moments just for yourself. No noise, no reactions, just quiet. A walk without a phone, a journal by your bedside, a few deep breaths with no goal but to feel them. These tiny spaces are how you rebuild your strength, how you remind yourself that your mind, your attention, and your peace are sacred. You don't have to explain yourself to people who don't respect your space. You don't have to carry conversations that leave you empty. You are not responsible for managing someone else's emotions every moment of every day. You are allowed to have your own thoughts, your own silence, your own rhythm. And tonight, as you lay your head down, remember, it's okay to turn off the noise. It's okay to stop giving your energy to people who never give it back. You deserve rest without interruption. You deserve peace without guilt. You deserve to be free from the constant pull of someone else's needs. Let your breath come slow. Let your body relax. Let your mind soften. You don't owe your attention to anyone tonight. You owe it to yourself. And that is more than enough. Memory twist. Have you ever had a moment when you clearly remembered something? What was said, what happened, how it made you feel, but someone close to you insisted it didn't happen that way? Maybe they laughed and called your memory wrong. Maybe they acted shocked or hurt, saying they never said such a thing. At first you feel confident, but as they keep talking, your certainty starts to slip. You begin to question yourself. Did I misunderstand? Did I overreact? That quiet moment of doubt grows. And before you know it, the truth you were holding begins to fade. This is what happens when someone slowly, skillfully rewrites the past. And over time, it makes you doubt not just your memory, but your mind. This kind of twisting doesn't usually come with loud arguments or obvious lies. It's often gentle, subtle, and wrapped in emotion. They may say things like, "That's not what I meant," or "You're remembering it wrong," or "You're being too sensitive." At first, these phrases may sound harmless, but when they show up again and again, especially after painful moments, they begin to shape how you see yourself. And that is where the true damage begins. The goal isn't always to confuse you right away. The goal is to plant a seed of doubt, one that makes you question your own memory. And if it happens often enough, you might begin to rely more on their version of the story than your own. You start to think, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not good at remembering things. Maybe it wasn't a big deal. And slowly, your trust in your own mind begins to break. It can feel very lonely when this happens. You try to hold on to the truth, but it slips through your fingers like sand. You start replaying conversations in your head, asking yourself what you missed. You wonder if you misunderstood the tone or the timing or the words, and every time they correct your version of the story, they look more confident, while you feel more unsure. That imbalance is not by accident. It's created, slowly and carefully, by someone who wants to shape your reality so they can stay in control. Sometimes they change the story to avoid responsibility. Let's say they raised their voice at you or said something hurtful. Days later, when you bring it up, they say it never happened, or that you were the one who started it. They may say you're exaggerating, or that you're always so dramatic. Suddenly the focus is not on what they did, but on how you remember it. And if you speak up again, they may even call you unfair or accuse you of holding grudges. The more this happens, the quieter you become. Not because you agree, but because you're tired. Tired of defending your memory. Tired of feeling like the truth lives only in your head. This kind of emotional twisting can happen in small everyday moments too. You remember agreeing on something, but they say it was never discussed. You recall them promising something, but they insist no such promise was made. You bring up a painful event and they act as if you imagined it. Over time, this makes you hesitate before speaking. You begin to filter your words, wondering how they'll be used against you later. And eventually, you stop trusting what you feel. You stop sharing what you remember. You stop asking questions. And the truth is, memory is deeply connected to our sense of self. When someone makes you doubt your memory, they're not just confusing the facts. They're making you doubt who you are, your experiences, your reactions, your voice. When those pieces get shaken, you start to feel like you're floating in a fog. You can't tell what's real anymore. You can't tell if you're being too emotional or just being erased. What's even more difficult is that people who twist memories are often very skilled at sounding calm and reasonable. They may never shout or seem angry. In fact, they may appear loving or concerned when they tell you you're wrong. That soft tone can make you second-guess yourself even more. You start to think, if they're being so calm, maybe I really am overthinking it. But calmness doesn't always mean truth. Sometimes calmness is used as a tool to make their story sound more believable than yours. And the danger of this kind of manipulation is that it works quietly. It doesn't leave obvious scars. It doesn't break you in a day. It works slowly, changing your view of reality until you forget what you once knew for sure. You forget how to stand on your own truth. You forget how to speak with confidence. You begin to rely on someone else to tell you what happened, even when it goes against your own instincts. But there's something very important to remember. Your memories matter. Your feelings matter. If something hurts you, even if someone else says it didn't happen, your pain is still valid. Your experience is still real. Just because someone tells you a different version doesn't mean you imagined yours. Just because they're louder or more certain doesn't make them right. To begin healing from memory twisting, you have to start trusting yourself again. That trust doesn't come overnight, especially if you've spent a long time being told you were wrong. But it starts with small steps. Writing things down can help. Conversations, feelings, events, so you can hold on to your truth, even when others try to blur it. It's also okay to talk to someone outside the situation. A friend, a counselor, or even a quiet journal can help remind you of what's real. Sometimes, just saying your truth out loud is the first step toward remembering it clearly again. Another powerful step is noticing the patterns. Who makes you doubt yourself the most? When do these memory shifts happen? Are they often around moments when you were hurt or stood up for yourself? Those are clues. They help you see that the twisting isn't random. It's a way for someone to avoid facing their actions and to keep you unsure and quiet. And as you begin to see the pattern, something starts to shift. The fog begins to lift. You begin to separate their voice from your own. You start to hear your own thoughts more clearly. You begin to say, "No, I remember this. I know what I felt. I was there." And in those moments, you take back something very powerful, your voice. You don't have to convince anyone else of your truth. It's not your job to prove what happened. Your job is to protect your peace, to protect your memory, to protect your heart from being rewritten. And sometimes the best way to do that is by walking away from the conversation. You don't need to argue. You don't need to stay. You only need to return to yourself. Tonight, as your thoughts begin to slow, remind yourself, your memories are not a mistake. They are not something to hide from. They are your inner compass, your guide, even the painful ones. They are proof that you were there, that you felt deeply, that you knew something wasn't right. And you can trust that. Breathe deeply now. Let your mind soften, not from confusion, but from release. Release the need to defend your memories to those who will never accept them. Release the fear that you must be wrong just because someone else says so. Let your truth be enough. Let your heart rest in the quiet, knowing that your experience is real and always has been. You don't need anyone else to agree in order for it to matter. It already does, and it always will. Crisis urgency. It often begins when everything finally feels calm. You're sitting in your room, maybe winding down for the night, or focusing on something important, like work, rest, or even just your thoughts. And then, out of nowhere, your phone lights up. It's a message or a call, or maybe even someone standing in front of you, panicked, emotional, and needing your full attention. The moment feels urgent, loud, and heavy. They say they need help right now. They say something bad is happening. They say it's all falling apart. And in that moment, you drop everything. You pause your own needs, push aside your own plans, and step into their storm. You feel like you have no choice. That's the power of a created crisis. one that wasn't real to begin with. This is a pattern some people use, often quietly and without ever admitting it. They create situations that seem like emergencies, not because they truly need help, but because they need your attention. And not just your attention. They want your focus, your time, your emotional energy. They want to pull you away from your peace and make you feel responsible for fixing what they've broken, or sometimes what never even existed. In these moments, it's hard to think clearly. The rush of emotion, the pressure of now, the fear of something being wrong, it makes your heart race. Your thoughts go to them first. What if they're really in trouble? What if I don't help and something bad happens? And so, you act. You comfort them. You offer solutions. You try to keep them calm. But deep inside, something starts to feel off. The crisis doesn't make full sense. Their story keeps changing. The details don't line up. And once things settle again, you realize you were pulled into something that wasn't real, or at least wasn't as urgent as they made it seem. This isn't about someone needing genuine support. Everyone has moments of panic, fear, or sadness. Everyone deserves care during hard times. But what we're talking about here is something different. It's when someone uses the appearance of crisis as a tool, not to be helped, but to control. Not to be comforted, but to redirect. Often, this kind of urgent distraction shows up when you start focusing on yourself, when you set a boundary, when you speak up about how you're feeling, when you're getting stronger. That's when the sudden chaos begins. Imagine you're starting to heal, or you're making progress in your life. You begin building confidence and you're finally feeling steady. Then, right when you're about to do something for yourself, they reach out in distress. They say, "Something terrible just happened." They need to talk. They need you now. And out of habit or love, you go running. You don't want to be unkind. You don't want to be selfish. But what you don't realize is that this was the plan. The emergency wasn't about them falling apart. It was about stopping you from rising. These invented crises often have a few common signs. First, they almost always show up when your attention is elsewhere. They may not reach out for days or even weeks, but as soon as you're focused on something healthy, yourself, your growth, your peace, they return, full of drama. Second, the problems they bring are often vague. There's panic, but not a lot of clear facts. You may ask questions and they get upset, or they shift the story, or they say you don't understand. And finally, when the crisis ends, there's no real change, no reflection, no growth, just silence until the next storm. And yet, each time it happens, you feel responsible. You feel like you should help. Like you're the only one who can make things better. That feeling isn't an accident. It's been planted over time. By making you feel needed only during chaos, they train you to respond only when it's painful, and they train you to ignore your own needs in the process. This cycle can leave you feeling drained. You try to focus, but your mind is always on edge, waiting for the next crisis. You plan your day, but one message can flip everything upside down. You want peace, but there's always noise. And slowly, without meaning to, you stop making space for your own joy, your own rest, your own dreams, because you're always managing someone else's invented pain. What's even harder is that these urgent moments can make you question yourself. You may start to think, maybe I am being too selfish. Maybe I should just drop everything again. You start ignoring your intuition. You stop asking, is this really my problem? And start thinking, what if I don't help and something bad happens? That fear becomes the leash, and they know it. But here's the truth. Real emergencies are rare, and when they do happen, they don't come with guilt. They come with truth. Real people in need don't use panic as a way to control. They ask for help with honesty, and they accept support with grace. When someone always seems to be in a crisis, but only when it's convenient for them or inconvenient for you, that's a pattern worth paying attention to. You are allowed to pause before responding. You are allowed to ask, is this really about me? Is this really urgent? You are allowed to choose peace, even if someone else is demanding panic. That doesn't make you uncaring. It makes you careful. It makes you wise. It means you're no longer letting someone else decide when your calm ends. To begin stepping out of this cycle, you can start small. Notice the timing. When do these crises usually show up? What are you doing before they begin? What was your energy like before the message came through? You may see a pattern that helps you understand what's really happening. Next, practice holding space without losing your own. That means you can listen without fixing. You can care without carrying. You can say, "I'm here, but I also need rest." Or, "I hope things get better, but I can't take this on tonight." And if someone truly values you, they will understand. If they don't, they may create another storm, but this time, you'll know it's not yours to walk into. Also, trust your gut. If a situation feels off, it probably is. If a crisis always makes you feel confused or exhausted, that's not a coincidence. That's the design. And the more you trust yourself, the stronger you'll feel when the next wave of panic comes. You'll stand still instead of being swept away. And perhaps the most important truth is this: your peace matters just as much as someone else's pain. You don't have to trade your mental clarity for their emotional confusion. You don't have to light yourself on fire to warm someone who keeps bringing smoke. You are not the keeper of every storm. You are not the fixer of every false emergency. Tonight, as your mind begins to slow and your breathing deepens, let that truth settle in. Let your shoulders drop as you let go of the need to always respond. Let your heart remember that not every loud voice deserves your energy. And let your soul return to stillness, knowing that the calm you build inside is stronger than any crisis they create outside. You are not here to be the emotional firefighter for someone who keeps starting their own fires. You are here to rest, to heal, to choose yourself, and to gently, firmly, lovingly say, "Not this time. I choose peace." Pressure pulse. It always starts when you're just beginning to breathe, to feel like things are under control. You're slowly building your balance, perhaps managing your day at your own pace, trying to enjoy a quiet moment. And then it hits. A sudden demand, a rushed message, an urgent tone. They need something. Not later, not soon, but now. The clock begins to tick, even though you never agreed to a countdown. You feel a wave of pressure rush through you, almost like someone flipped a switch inside your chest. Your heart beats faster. Your thoughts begin to race. The peace you were holding quietly slips away. This, right here, is the pressure pulse. It's a pattern that's hard to see at first, especially if it's coming from someone close to you. They don't yell, they don't push. They simply ask, loudly, quickly, and with a sense of urgency that doesn't match the situation. They say it's just one thing, or a small favor, or really important right now. But over time, you start to notice that these requests come with an invisible weight. You feel like you have to say yes. You feel like there's no room to pause or think. You feel like if you don't respond right away, something will go wrong, or someone will be upset. It's not just about being busy. Everyone has times when life gets hectic. But this is different. This is when someone uses false urgency to create stress inside you. They set the pace, and it's always faster than you're ready for. They add pressure where none is needed. And before you can even ask why, you're already scrambling to catch up. Sometimes the deadlines don't make sense. They want to reply to something that could wait until tomorrow. They want you to make a decision without time to think. They expect a task to be done immediately, even though it was their delay that caused the time crunch in the first place. But still, you rush, because you've been trained to feel responsible for their stress. This kind of pressure changes how you breathe. You stop moving gently through your day and begin moving with tension. Your shoulders feel tight. Your mind feels cluttered. You start cutting corners, not because you want to, but because you feel like you're running out of time. You're constantly reacting instead of living. And slowly, you begin to forget what calm even feels like. It's important to understand that not all stress is accidental. Some people use it as a tool. When they rush you, they take away your space to think clearly. They make sure you don't have time to reflect, to question, or to push back. They fill your world with noise so you can't hear your own thoughts. And in that confusion, they get what they want. Quick responses, fast actions, and your full attention. But the damage builds slowly. You might start feeling anxious all the time. Even when no one is asking for anything, you stay on edge. You check your phone too often. You jump when someone speaks. You forget how to rest because your body is stuck in a loop of waiting for the next wave of stress. And yet, you keep going because you've been made to believe that keeping up with their pace is the same as being a good person. But it's not. You are not meant to be someone else's emergency response team. You are not built to carry pressure that doesn't belong to you. Your worth is not measured by how fast you move or how much you give under stress. Real connection, real care, does not rush. It makes space. It allows breath. Sometimes the people who send these pressure pulses don't even realize they're doing it. They've learned to live in chaos, so they bring that chaos to everyone around them. They don't mean to hurt you, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. And sometimes they do know what they're doing. They know that the more stress they create, the easier it is to get what they want from you. Whether it's time, attention, forgiveness, or control, they use urgency like a weapon wrapped in soft words. But there is a way out. It begins with noticing. Start to watch how you feel when certain messages arrive. Do your shoulders tense? Does your breathing change? Does your mind start to race even before you've replied? These are signs that pressure is being pushed on you, and it's not your fault, but it is your right to pause. One of the most powerful things you can do is reclaim your pace. That means reminding yourself that not everything needs an instant answer, that someone else's last-minute problem doesn't have to become your crisis, that you are allowed to say, "I'll get to this later," or "I need time to think." At first, this might feel strange, even scary. You might worry that you'll disappoint someone, that they'll get angry, that they'll walk away. But with time, you'll notice something even more powerful. Peace returns. Your mind slows. Your breath deepens. You begin to live in your own time, not someone else's timer. And slowly, the world becomes quieter, not silent, but balanced. You'll be able to spot the difference between a real emergency and a made-up one. You'll feel strong enough to hold your ground even when someone tries to shake it. And most of all, you'll learn that your well-being doesn't have to be sacrificed just to keep someone else's schedule moving. Tonight, as the world slows down and your thoughts begin to soften, remember this: you are not a machine. You are not built for constant speed. You are a human being who deserves to move gently through life, who deserves to think, to breathe, to choose. So let the pressure go. Let the false deadlines fall away. And let your heart return to a rhythm that feels like yours. Because you are not here to live in someone else's rush. You are here to live in your own peace. And that peace, it's already waiting inside you, ready to rise again. Slowly, softly, and entirely on your time. Guilt burden. Imagine a weight pressing down on you, slowly getting heavier with each passing moment. It's a burden you can't escape, one that clings to you, wrapping itself around your heart and mind. You didn't ask for it, yet here it is, sitting on your shoulders, demanding your attention. It's not just any guilt, it's the kind of guilt that you didn't deserve, the kind that's been handed to you like a burden that doesn't belong to you, but now feels like a part of you. It starts subtly. You might notice the tone of a conversation shifting, the words becoming sharper, or perhaps the quiet insinuation that something isn't quite right with you. Maybe it's a look, a pause, or even a simple phrase that seems harmless at first, but you feel it deep inside. Something about this interaction is making you feel less than. It's a feeling that begins to creep in, leaving you unsure of where it came from. You wonder, is it me? But instead of clarity, you feel confusion, doubt, and the growing sensation that you are responsible for something you didn't even do. Guilt, in itself, isn't always a negative emotion. It can be a natural response to a mistake or wrongdoing. But when guilt is forced upon you, when it's used to control you, that's when it turns toxic. Someone else's burden becomes yours. Someone else's disappointment becomes your shame. And slowly, you begin to believe that you are the one who has done something wrong, even when you haven't. This kind of guilt doesn't come from your own actions or decisions. Instead, it's the result of someone else's manipulation. They want to make you feel responsible for their emotions, their needs, or their failures. So, they wrap you in this false sense of accountability, hoping you'll carry their feelings for them. The more they do this, the more you begin to feel like you're the one who's always falling short, always disappointing. And before you know it, you're carrying this invisible weight with you, a weight that doesn't belong to you at all. This guilt burden is powerful because it doesn't just stay in the moment. It lingers. It follows you. It becomes a part of how you see yourself, how you evaluate your actions, and how you interact with others. It whispers in your ear when you're alone, making you question your decisions, your worth, and your intentions. It tells you that you're not good enough, that you haven't done enough, or that you're somehow lacking. Over time, this guilt erodes your confidence. You start second-guessing yourself constantly, questioning if you're making the right choices or saying the right things. You may even avoid situations that remind you of this guilt, hoping that by staying away, you can protect yourself from the shame that's been attached to you. But it's always there, lurking in the background, waiting to resurface whenever someone else wants to remind you of it. It's important to recognize the difference between guilt that comes from your own actions and guilt that's been placed on you by someone else. Real guilt comes from a place of honesty and self-awareness. It's the feeling you get when you know you've made a mistake and want to make amends. But the guilt that's forced upon you isn't your own. It's a tool used to manipulate you, to make you feel responsible for something you didn't cause. The person who uses guilt as a weapon will often use your kindness and your sense of responsibility against you. They know that you care about others, that you don't want to hurt anyone, and that you try to do the right thing. So, they'll make you feel like you've failed them, even when you haven't. They'll make you question your actions and your intentions, causing you to feel as though you're always the one to blame. But here's the truth. You don't deserve this guilt. It's not yours to carry. You didn't cause someone else's emotions, and you shouldn't have to pay the price for their mistakes or insecurities. The guilt you feel isn't a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of someone else's need to control you, and you have the right to free yourself from it. Breaking free from the guilt burden isn't easy, but it's necessary for your well-being. The first step is recognizing that it doesn't belong to you. When you start to notice the signs of this manipulation, you can begin to take back your power. You don't need to apologize for something you didn't do. You don't need to accept responsibility for someone else's feelings. And you certainly don't need to carry guilt that isn't yours. Once you understand that the guilt isn't yours, you can start setting boundaries. This means telling the person who's trying to make you feel guilty that you won't accept their burden. You don't have to explain yourself or justify your actions. You simply need to say, "This isn't mine to carry." You might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent a lot of time trying to please them or taking on their emotions, but it's a crucial step toward reclaiming your peace. As you begin to shed this unnecessary guilt, you'll start to feel lighter. You'll find yourself making decisions without the weight of someone else's expectations pulling you down. You'll feel more confident in your choices, knowing that you're acting based on what's right for you, not based on what someone else is trying to make you feel. The more you let go of this guilt, the more you'll realize how much space it has taken up in your life. You'll feel freer, more at ease, and more connected to who you truly are. In time, you'll learn to trust yourself again. You'll stop second-guessing your every move and start living with more confidence and clarity. You'll be able to enjoy your relationships without constantly worrying about whether you're meeting someone else's emotional needs. And most importantly, you'll learn to stop carrying guilt that isn't yours to bear so you can make room for the things that truly matter: your peace, your happiness, and your sense of self-worth. It's important to remember that guilt doesn't define you. Your worth is not determined by how much guilt you carry or how much you're willing to sacrifice for others. You are deserving of happiness, of peace, and of relationships that uplift you, not ones that weigh you down with shame and guilt. So let go of the guilt burden and step into a life where you are free to be yourself without the heavy weight of someone else's emotions dragging you down. You are enough, just as you are, and that is the only truth that matters. Trust erosion. Have you ever felt that quiet, creeping doubt sneaking into your mind? At first, it's barely noticeable, just a small whisper that fades in the background, but then, slowly, over time, it becomes louder and harder to ignore. It's not something that happens overnight. Instead, it's a gradual process where the foundation of trust, once strong, begins to slowly crumble. Trust erosion doesn't come with sudden, loud shifts, but rather with small, subtle actions that chip away at your self-belief day by day. You might have been in a relationship or situation where, at first, you felt completely confident in your choices, your abilities, and even in the people around you. There was a sense of security, a sense of certainty that allowed you to believe in yourself without hesitation. But then something started to shift. Little by little, you began to doubt yourself. You began to second-guess your decisions, question your worth, and wonder if your instincts were reliable. And you didn't even realize it at first. You simply noticed that you felt off, uncertain, or disconnected from the confidence you once had. Trust erosion works in a subtle, sneaky way. It doesn't force its way in all at once, demanding your attention. Instead, it takes its time, wearing you down slowly. It begins with small comments or actions that, on the surface, may seem insignificant. Perhaps someone you trust makes a passing remark that questions your judgment, or maybe they dismiss your feelings, making you feel like you're overreacting. In these moments, you might shrug it off, telling yourself that it was nothing. After all, everyone has moments of doubt, right? But as these moments pile up, something starts to shift within you. You begin to doubt your own instincts, your abilities, and, eventually, even your worth. The most dangerous part of trust erosion is that it often feels like you're the one who's changing. At first, the changes are so gradual that you hardly notice them. You might think that it's just a rough patch or that you're going through a phase. But as time goes on, you start to realize that you no longer trust yourself the way you once did. You're second-guessing everything, unsure of the decisions that used to come naturally to you. And the more you doubt yourself, the easier it becomes for others to manipulate or control your thoughts, feelings, and actions. The problem is, this slow erosion of trust doesn't just affect your relationship with others. It directly impacts your relationship with yourself. Self-trust is the foundation on which your confidence, your sense of self-worth, and your decision-making abilities are built. When that trust starts to erode, it feels like you're losing a part of yourself. You no longer trust your own thoughts, your own decisions, or even your own emotions. You start to believe that maybe you're not as capable, as intelligent, or as competent as you once thought. And that's exactly what the person who's chipping away at your trust wants you to feel. They want you to question your own judgment so that they can have more control over you. The erosion of trust isn't always a deliberate act of manipulation, but that doesn't make it any less damaging. It's often the result of subtle, thoughtless actions that gradually undermine your confidence. Maybe someone repeatedly invalidates your feelings, making you feel like your emotions don't matter. Maybe they withhold praise or recognition, leaving you feeling like your efforts are never enough. Over time, these actions start to eat away at your self-esteem, leaving you feeling unsure of your own worth and your ability to navigate the world around you. It's easy to see how this gradual erosion of trust can affect your life in negative ways. When you don't trust yourself, you become more susceptible to the opinions and actions of others. You may start to rely too heavily on external validation, constantly seeking approval or reassurance from others because you no longer believe in your own abilities. You might start to avoid making decisions on your own, waiting for someone else to tell you what to do, because you don't trust yourself to make the right choice. And all of this only deepens the cycle of doubt and self-questioning. Breaking free from the erosion of trust isn't easy, but it's necessary for your mental and emotional well-being. The first step is recognizing what's happening. when you start to notice the small, subtle ways that your self-belief is being chipped away, you can begin to take action. You don't have to accept these small, damaging actions as normal. You have the right to stand up for yourself and protect your trust in your own abilities. The next step is to rebuild your trust in yourself. This starts with acknowledging the areas where you've been doubting yourself and giving yourself permission to trust your own judgment again. It may be helpful to remind yourself of past successes, times when you made decisions that turned out well, or moments when you acted confidently and made a positive impact. These reminders can help you reconnect with the belief that you are capable, strong, and worthy of trust. In addition to rebuilding your self-trust, it's also important to set boundaries with those who have contributed to the erosion of your confidence. You don't have to tolerate behavior that undermines your self-belief. It's okay to distance yourself from people who make you feel small or who consistently cause you to doubt yourself. Protecting your mental and emotional well-being is a priority, and that may mean cutting ties with individuals who have played a role in chipping away at your trust in yourself. As you begin to rebuild your trust, you'll notice that you start to feel more grounded and more confident in your decisions. You'll begin to trust your instincts again, knowing that you have the ability to make good choices. You'll stop relying on external validation to define your worth and start trusting your own judgment instead. And as your self-trust grows, you'll become less susceptible to the subtle erosion that others may try to impose on you. You'll be able to recognize when someone is trying to make you doubt yourself, and you'll have the confidence to stand firm in your beliefs and decisions. In the end, trust erosion may seem like a slow process, but the impact it has on your self-belief is significant. It takes time to rebuild the trust you've lost, but with patience, self-compassion, and healthy boundaries, you can regain the confidence and belief in yourself that you deserve. Remember that your worth is not determined by the opinions or actions of others. You are capable, strong, and deserving of trust, both from yourself and from those around you. The key is to protect your inner strength and never allow anyone to make you doubt your own abilities. Chaos spell. Have you ever felt like you're constantly surrounded by drama, as if it's impossible to escape the whirlwind of conflict, confusion, and chaos? It's as if no matter how much you try to maintain calm, someone or something is always stirring up a storm, pulling you into unnecessary drama. It can feel overwhelming, leaving you emotionally drained and mentally exhausted. This endless cycle of turmoil isn't by accident. It's often a deliberate tactic used by those who want to keep you off balance, unsure, and disoriented. They create a chaotic environment that makes it nearly impossible for you to find any peace or stability. The essence of the chaos spell lies in its subtlety. At first, it may seem like small, insignificant disruptions, things that are easy to brush off. Maybe it's an argument here, a misunderstanding there, or a situation that seems to spiral out of control for no clear reason. These events often don't make sense, and they certainly don't seem like they should be as big of an issue as they are becoming. But gradually, you begin to notice a pattern. There's always something, always some new drama or conflict that you're being dragged into. It starts to feel like you can't escape it, and just when you think things are settling down, something else erupts, pulling you right back into the chaos. This constant drama isn't just random. It's carefully designed to keep you in a state of confusion and emotional turmoil. The people who create this chaos are experts at pulling strings, at creating conflict where there was none, and at making you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells. They know that when you're caught up in drama, you're not focused on anything else. Your mind is consumed with the conflict, the confusion, and the emotional roller coaster. This leaves you off balance, unsure of what's real, and unable to think clearly. And that's exactly what they want. When you're caught in this cycle of chaos, it becomes difficult to make sense of what's happening around you. Your mind is constantly racing, trying to process each new issue that arises. You start to question your own perceptions of reality because the constant drama makes it hard to know what's true and what's just another manipulation. It's like being caught in a whirlwind, where the ground beneath you is constantly shifting. You're never able to get your bearings, never able to find stability, because just as you start to calm down, another storm appears, and the cycle starts all over again. This chaotic environment can leave you feeling emotionally drained. The constant ups and downs, the unpredictability, and the tension all take a toll on your mental and emotional well-being. It's like running on a treadmill that never stops. You're constantly moving but getting nowhere. And just when you think you're close to finding some peace, the chaos intensifies, pulling you back in. One of the most difficult aspects of living in a constant state of chaos is the toll it takes on your sense of control. When your surroundings are unpredictable, it becomes hard to feel in charge of your own life. You begin to feel like you're at the mercy of the chaos, with no way to stop it or regain a sense of peace. The more you try to fix one problem, the more issues seem to appear, and you start to feel like you're trapped in a never-ending cycle of drama. This can lead to feelings of helplessness, frustration, and even despair. You may begin to question if it's even possible to find stability again. The individuals who create this chaos often do so because they thrive on the disruption and the control it gives them. They know that when you're caught up in their web of drama, you're not focused on your own needs or well-being. You're too busy trying to make sense of the chaos they've created, trying to fix problems that don't actually need fixing. This keeps you distracted, confused, and emotionally vulnerable, making it easier for them to maintain their influence over you. Living in a constant state of chaos also makes it difficult to trust your own judgment. When you're constantly questioning what's real and what's not, you begin to doubt your own perceptions and decisions. Your ability to think clearly is clouded by the drama around you, making it harder to make informed choices or to act with confidence. This can lead to a loss of self-trust, as you start to wonder if you're simply imagining the chaos or if your own reactions are exaggerated. This is a powerful tool for those who want to manipulate or control you, because when you doubt yourself, you become more dependent on them to provide clarity and direction. The chaos spell isn't just about creating noise and confusion. It's about keeping you disoriented and unsure of yourself. It's about making you feel like you can't trust your own thoughts, feelings, or experiences because they're constantly being undermined by the drama around you. The more you're caught up in this chaos, the less you're able to focus on what really matters, like your own goals, your personal growth, and your emotional health. You're too busy trying to survive the storm to make any progress toward the life you want. Breaking free from the chaos spell requires awareness and intentional action. The first step is recognizing when you're being pulled into the drama. Once you see the pattern, you can begin to distance yourself from it. You don't have to engage with every issue that comes up or try to fix every problem that isn't yours to solve. It's important to protect your energy and your peace of mind by setting boundaries and choosing not to get involved in unnecessary drama. Another key step in breaking free is learning how to reclaim your focus and your sense of control. Instead of reacting to the chaos around you, start to focus on what you can control: your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. Focus on your own well-being and take steps to create stability in your own life. This might mean carving out time for relaxation, setting clear boundaries with others, or simply practicing mindfulness to stay grounded. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to resist the pull of the chaos. You begin to recognize it for what it is, a distraction meant to keep you off balance and uncertain. Once you realize this, you can choose not to engage and instead focus on the things that truly matter to you. This will help you regain your peace of mind, your confidence, and your sense of control. In the end, the chaos spell may seem like a force beyond your control, but it's not. With awareness, boundaries, and a commitment to your own well-being, you can break free from the cycle of drama and regain the peace and stability you deserve. By focusing on what you can control and learning to distance yourself from the chaos, you can create a life that is calm, focused, and aligned with your true needs and desires. Validation thirst. There's a deep unspoken desire within all of us, the need to feel seen, heard, and appreciated by others. It's natural to want validation, to seek out affirmation from the people around us. But sometimes this desire for Approval becomes more than just a simple wish for encouragement. It becomes a constant thirst, a yearning that can consume us. When someone deliberately stokes this need within you, they create a dangerous situation where your self-worth becomes dependent on their approval. Over time, this thirst for validation grows stronger, leaving you feeling empty and incomplete when you don't receive the affirmation you crave. This kind of emotional manipulation is subtle at first. It doesn't start with grand gestures, but rather small moments of encouragement that make you feel good about yourself. It could be a compliment here, a word of praise there, enough to make you feel validated, enough to make you want more. And the more you receive these small tokens of approval, the more you start to crave them. You begin to tie your sense of self-worth to the validation you receive from others, and before you know it, the desire for approval becomes all-consuming. You start to measure your value by how others see you, particularly the person who's been feeding this validation thirst. It doesn't take long before this craving begins to overshadow your own needs, desires, and aspirations. Instead of focusing on what truly matters to you, your actions are driven by the need to earn the approval of others. You might begin to shape your personality, your decisions, and even your goals around what will make the other person happy. You might find yourself constantly trying to please them, hoping for a compliment or a word of praise in return. It becomes a never-ending cycle of seeking approval, and with each moment that passes without receiving it, the thirst becomes more intense, more desperate. The problem with this constant need for validation is that it becomes a hollow pursuit.
Men dumnina nefshonen ka masumbog obaikan sto barhan alebe bills kurde by for eva nana adikaskum nasan ben medmos tibimaya san nama ar sadba bedomon oktube da resendine ma berdrejani wake the these bar prendi puff some h cause again to say seed.
One moment you might receive the praise you've been waiting for, and the next, it's as if it was never given. You start to wonder if you've done something wrong, questioning your worth because you didn't get the validation you expected. This creates a vicious cycle of emotional highs and lows, leaving you constantly on edge, wondering when you'll get your next dose of approval. The person who is feeding this thirst knows exactly what they're doing. They've learned how to keep you hooked by offering just enough validation to keep you coming back for more. It's like a drug. At first it feels good, but over time you need more and more to feel the same high. The moment you start to feel secure, they withhold the validation, leaving you feeling uncertain and insecure. This creates a constant emotional push and pull where you're never quite sure if you're doing enough to earn their approval. Your self-esteem becomes entirely dependent on their recognition, and this is exactly what they want. They know that when they control your validation, they control you. Over time, this dependency on external approval can take a serious toll on your sense of self-worth. When you're constantly looking outside of yourself for affirmation, you lose sight of your own intrinsic value. You forget that your worth isn't dependent on anyone's approval. It's something that comes from within. But when you're trapped in this cycle of validation thirst, it's hard to remember that. You become so focused on earning the approval of others that you stop validating yourself. You stop recognizing your own strengths, your own achievements, and your own worth. What makes this even more dangerous is that the person feeding your validation thirst may not always have your best interests at heart. They may use this control to keep you emotionally dependent on them, ensuring that you remain in their orbit. When your self-worth is tied to their opinion, you become more susceptible to manipulation. You may feel like you can't make decisions without their approval, or that you have to constantly prove your worth to them. This can erode your confidence, leaving you feeling small and insignificant when you don't receive the validation you crave. The toll this takes on your mental and emotional health can be significant. As you continuously chase after external validation, you lose touch with your own sense of identity. You may begin to feel like you're playing a role, constantly adjusting yourself to fit the expectations of others. Instead of being true to yourself, you start to live for the approval of someone else. And when that approval isn't forthcoming, it can leave you feeling empty, rejected, and unsure of your place in the world. Breaking free from the need for constant validation begins with recognizing that your worth doesn't come from others. It comes from within you. You are enough, just as you are, without needing to seek approval from anyone. This realization can be freeing, but it requires a shift in mindset. You need to start validating yourself, celebrating your own accomplishments, and accepting your flaws without judgment. When you learn to appreciate yourself without relying on others for affirmation, you reclaim your power and your sense of self-worth. One of the most important steps in overcoming validation thirst is learning to trust yourself. It's easy to fall into the trap of seeking external validation when you don't trust your own instincts or decisions. But when you start to believe in your own judgment and value, you no longer need to seek approval from others. Instead, you make decisions based on what feels right for you, not what will earn you praise or recognition. Another key aspect of breaking free from the need for validation is learning to set boundaries. When someone tries to manipulate your self-worth by withholding validation, it's important to recognize the behavior and distance yourself from it. You don't need to depend on anyone's approval to feel good about yourself. Setting boundaries around how much you're willing to rely on others for validation is crucial to protecting your emotional health and maintaining your sense of self. At its core, overcoming validation thirst is about rediscovering your own inner strength and self-worth. You don't need anyone's approval to be valuable or worthy of love. By learning to validate yourself, trust your own judgment, and set healthy boundaries, you can break free from the cycle of seeking external approval. When you no longer rely on others to tell you that you're enough, you'll find a deep sense of peace and confidence within yourself. And that's the ultimate form of validation, one that no one can take away from you. Control cue. Sometimes control doesn't come in loud demands or obvious manipulations. Instead, it shows up in the smallest, most subtle ways. These tiny hints, these gentle nudges, seem almost innocent at first. They're designed to go unnoticed, to seem like casual suggestions or offhand comments. But over time, they can steer every action you take without you even realizing it. These small cues can infiltrate your thoughts, your decisions, and your daily life, until you are following someone else's direction without even understanding how you got there. At first, these little hints can feel harmless. It could be a suggestion about where to go for dinner or what movie to watch, nothing that feels heavy or controlling. But when these suggestions start to pop up more frequently, you begin to notice a pattern. It's as if the decisions you're making aren't entirely your own. You may find yourself going along with plans that you didn't initially want to follow, doing things that don't feel right to you, simply because they were framed in a way that felt like the only reasonable option. It's not overt manipulation. It's subtle enough to make you think you're making your own choices, but deep down, you know that something is guiding you along a path that wasn't entirely your own. The person offering these cues knows exactly what they are doing. They've learned how to shape your actions without forcing them. They understand the power of suggestion, how one small comment can plant a seed in your mind that grows into a decision you didn't even realize you were making. And they use that understanding to control the direction of your life, one tiny hint at a time. At first, you might chalk it up to coincidence. Maybe it's just a suggestion here and there, and it doesn't feel like a big deal. But as these suggestions accumulate, you start to realize that your choices are slowly being influenced without your full awareness. These little nudges add up, and before you know it, you're taking actions that benefit the person controlling the cues more than they benefit you. This form of control doesn't rely on loud demands or overt threats. Instead, it operates quietly, behind the scenes, so that you don't even realize you're being manipulated. The control is in the details, the way someone casually mentions what they think you should do, or how they present a situation in a way that makes one option seem more appealing than others. These hints are never direct commands. They are more like gentle suggestions wrapped in a layer of seemingly innocent conversation, and yet they carry a subtle weight that makes it hard to push back against them. The more these cues are used, the more you start to internalize them. Your decisions begin to be shaped by the quiet influence of someone else's desires, and it becomes harder and harder to discern your own preferences from theirs. The control is so subtle that you may not even recognize it until it's too late. You might wonder why you feel a sense of obligation to follow along, why you are more eager to agree with certain things or make specific choices. It's as if your own desires and instincts have been muted, replaced by the silent pull of the hints that have been dropped into your life over time. One of the most dangerous aspects of this kind of control is that it doesn't feel like control at all. It feels like you're just going with the flow, making decisions the way anyone would. But when you stop and think about it, you realize that you've been subtly guided to make choices that align with someone else's interests, not your own. Over time, this constant influence can wear away at your sense of autonomy. You may start to feel like your decisions are never truly your own, that you're constantly being steered in a direction that doesn't feel authentic to you. This type of manipulation is particularly powerful because it feeds on your natural desire to avoid conflict. When someone subtly guides your decisions through tiny hints, it's hard to push back without feeling rude or unreasonable. After all, they're not demanding anything from you. They're just suggesting things in a way that makes you feel like it's the natural course of action. It's easy to go along with these suggestions because they don't feel like a direct challenge to your independence. But in reality, these small hints are a constant reminder of who is actually in control, and over time, it becomes harder and harder to escape their influence. The emotional toll of living under this kind of subtle manipulation can be profound. You start to question your own ability to make decisions. You may begin to feel like you need validation for every choice you make, seeking reassurance from the person offering the cues. You might even start to second-guess your instincts, wondering if your choices are truly your own or if they have been shaped by someone else's influence. The constant questioning of your own judgment can lead to a lack of confidence, making you more vulnerable to further manipulation. The longer this goes on, the harder it becomes to regain control over your own life as the cues continue to subtly guide your every move. Breaking free from the influence of these control cues requires awareness. The first step is recognizing that these tiny hints are not as innocent as they seem. Once you begin to notice them, you can start to step back and assess whether the decisions you are making are truly your own. It might be uncomfortable at first, especially if you've become accustomed to following these subtle suggestions, but with time, you can begin to reclaim your autonomy and take charge of your own choices once again. It also helps to trust your instincts and learn to say no when something doesn't feel right. If someone offers a suggestion that doesn't align with your desires or goals, it's important to recognize that you have the power to reject it. Learning to trust yourself and your judgment is key to breaking free from the control of these subtle cues. The more you practice asserting your independence, the easier it becomes to make decisions based on your own values and needs rather than the quiet influence of others. Ultimately, control through tiny hints is a silent form of manipulation, but it's also one that can be resisted with the right awareness and mindset. By staying in tune with your own desires, trusting your instincts, and recognizing the subtle cues when they arise, you can regain control over your life and make decisions that truly reflect who you are. The more you stand firm in your own beliefs, the less power these small hints will have over you, and with time, you'll find that you no longer need to rely on anyone else's subtle nudges to guide your choices. You'll be confident in your own path, free from the silent influence
of control.
Thought hijack. Have you ever had the feeling that your own thoughts aren't entirely your own, like someone else has managed to sneak into your mind, planting ideas and desires that don't really reflect who you are or what you want? This kind of manipulation is often invisible and hard to detect, but its impact can be profound. Thought hijacking happens when someone or something slowly infiltrates your private mental space, inserting their own agenda and influencing your thinking without you even realizing it. It's a quiet, stealthy process that can leave you questioning the authenticity of your own thoughts. At first, the intrusion seems harmless, even subtle. It might begin with offhand comments or casual suggestions that seem innocent on the surface. But over time, these external influences begin to take root, and you might find yourself thinking about things you never considered before. Ideas that weren't in your original plan. You may even catch yourself agreeing with concepts that feel foreign to you, or suddenly feeling compelled to act in a way that doesn't align with your true values. The worst part is that it doesn't feel like anyone is forcing you to think or act a certain way. It just feels like these new thoughts are your own, even though they have been carefully planted in your mind by someone else. This type of manipulation can be subtle enough to make you feel like you're still in control of your own mind, but in reality, you're being guided down a path that isn't really yours to walk. Thought hijacking can happen in many forms, from people trying to sway your opinions to subtle media influence, all the way to more personal forms of manipulation, like relationships that blur the lines between advice and control. At first, it might feel like your choices are just expanding, that you're seeing new perspectives and ideas. But as time goes on, you begin to realize that these new thoughts seem oddly one-sided, often promoting someone else's views or interests more than your own. The more this influence takes root, the more difficult it becomes to distinguish between your own thoughts and the ones that have been carefully inserted. This is especially dangerous because it can make you feel like you're the one in control, when in fact, someone else is directing your mental landscape from the shadows. It becomes harder to discern what is truly your opinion and what has been subtly manipulated. Over time, your natural way of thinking starts to shift, and you may even wonder why you suddenly feel strongly about things you never cared about before. You might find yourself questioning your own beliefs, wondering if you ever really held those ideas in the first place. The emotional toll of thought hijacking can be incredibly disorienting. As you start to lose touch with your own beliefs and desires, you might feel like you're drifting through life, unable to trust your own instincts or judgment. You could begin to doubt your own thoughts, asking yourself if what you're thinking is really how you feel, or if it's just the result of someone else's influence. This kind of uncertainty can lead to a sense of anxiety and confusion, as you try to figure out where your true self ends and where the manipulation begins. One of the reasons why hijacking can be so powerful is that it doesn't require obvious control. There's no shouting, no direct orders, no forceful manipulation. Instead, it's all about the subtle insertion of ideas into your mental space. This could come in the form of comments, suggestions, or even a conversation that leaves you feeling uncertain or guilty about your own thoughts. Over time, these messages start to shape your beliefs, leaving you open to more influence without even realizing it. It's a silent kind of pressure that you can't always put your finger on, but it's there, slowly guiding you in a direction that benefits someone else. The most unsettling aspect of thought hijacking is that it can feel so personal. You may find yourself thinking about something and believe it's your own thought, only to realize later that it was influenced by an outside source. It's easy to feel like you've lost your mental independence, that your thoughts are no longer your own. This is the essence of hijacking, taking something as personal as your thoughts and turning them into something that serves someone else's needs. And because it's done so subtly, it often doesn't feel like a direct attack. It feels more like an invitation to consider a new way of thinking, a way that you would have never thought about on your own. Reclaiming control over your thoughts in a situation like this is challenging, but not impossible. The first step is recognizing that your thoughts are not always your own, and acknowledging that external influences can be shaping your mental landscape. Once you become aware of this, it becomes easier to separate your true thoughts from those that may have been implanted. The next step is learning to trust your own instincts again, and allowing yourself the space to reflect on your beliefs without the interference of outside influences. It's about reconnecting with your true self and giving yourself the freedom to think without the subtle pressure of manipulation. Another important aspect of breaking free from thought hijacking is taking a step back and reassessing your mental environment. Who or what are the influences in your life that are shaping your thoughts? Is there someone or something consistently pushing certain ideas or values onto you? By becoming aware of these sources, you can begin to filter out the noise and reclaim your mental space. You can create boundaries in your thoughts, making sure that what you believe is truly your own. In a world that is constantly bombarding us with messages and opinions, it's easy to lose sight of our own beliefs and desires. But by staying conscious of the subtle ways our thoughts can be hijacked, we can take steps to protect our mental space and ensure that our decisions are based on what we truly believe, not what others want us to believe. Thought hijacking may be a quiet, invisible form of control, but it's one that can be overcome with awareness, intention, and a commitment to reclaiming the power of our own minds. When we start to recognize when our thoughts are being influenced by outside forces, we can begin to take back control. It's not about rejecting other perspectives or ideas, but about ensuring that our own voice is the loudest and most authentic. When we allow ourselves the freedom to think independently, free from manipulation, we can live more aligned with who we really are, not who someone else wants us to be. Reclaiming our thoughts is the first step in regaining our autonomy, and, once we do, we can begin to make decisions that reflect our true selves, rather than the quiet influence of others. Forgotten self. Have you ever felt like your own needs have been pushed so far to the side that they almost seem forgotten? Like you're constantly giving and giving, but when it comes time to ask for something for yourself, there's just nothing left to give. It's an experience many of us go through, especially when we're around people who demand more than we can give. Over time, we begin to lose sight of ourselves as we try to meet their endless expectations. Our own needs, our own desires, our own sense of self become buried beneath their constant demands, and we find ourselves wondering who we are and what we truly need. It's not always easy to spot when this is happening, especially when you're caught up in the cycle of giving. At first, it feels natural to put others first, to care for those around you. But when this becomes a one-way street, where your needs are continually ignored or dismissed, something begins to shift inside. You may feel drained, exhausted, and like your own life has become a backdrop to the needs of others. It's as though your own identity starts to slip away, replaced by a role you've been forced to play, constantly meeting others' needs while yours go unmet. The longer this goes on, the more disconnected you feel from your true self. You may find yourself in situations where you no longer know what you want or need because you've been so focused on fulfilling someone else's expectations. The constant demands begin to drown out your voice, and before long, you're not even sure what your needs are anymore. You've been so busy trying to make everyone else happy that you've forgotten how to make yourself happy. This is the silent erosion of your self-worth, as your desires and feelings are minimized to make room for others' wants. In a relationship or environment where your needs are continually overshadowed by others, it's easy to become caught up in trying to meet the demands of those around you. It feels like a constant struggle to keep up, to do more, to give more, and to prove that you're enough. But the irony is that in doing so, you're losing sight of the very thing that makes you who you are. You start to feel like you're not allowed to take a break, to have your own space, or to ask for what you need without feeling guilty. This constant push to meet others' needs without taking care of your own is a form of emotional exhaustion, leaving you empty and disconnected from your own sense of self. It's important to understand that this kind of dynamic isn't healthy, and it's not sustainable in the long run. While it might feel noble to put others first, eventually it takes a toll on your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Your needs are just as important as anyone else's, and if you're not taking care of yourself, you won't be able to give your best to others. It's not selfish to ask for what you need. It's a necessary part of maintaining a healthy, balanced life. One of the most difficult parts of this cycle is that when you're so focused on fulfilling others' needs, it's easy to ignore the signs that you're losing yourself. You might start to feel resentful or frustrated, but instead of acknowledging those feelings, you push them down, thinking that you should just keep giving. The result is a growing sense of dissatisfaction and emptiness, which can lead to feelings of being undervalued or unseen. You may begin to question whether anyone truly sees you for who you are, or if you're just being used for what you can give. Breaking free from this cycle starts with recognizing that you have the right to your own needs and desires. It means acknowledging that you matter just as much as everyone else, and that your feelings, wants, and boundaries deserve to be respected. Learning to assert your needs in a healthy way is an essential step in reclaiming your identity. It's not about being selfish, it's about finding balance and ensuring that you don't lose yourself in the process of caring for others. Once you begin to prioritize your own well-being, you might notice a shift in how you approach relationships and situations. You'll start to set boundaries and communicate more clearly about what you need. At first, this might feel uncomfortable, especially if you've spent so long putting others first. You may worry about disappointing people or feeling guilty for taking time for yourself. But the truth is, healthy relationships are built on mutual respect and understanding. If you're constantly giving and never receiving, it's not a balanced or healthy dynamic. By taking the time to care for yourself, you're ensuring that you can continue to show up for others in a way that is meaningful and sustainable. It's also important to remember that taking care of yourself doesn't mean you have to do it all alone. Support is available, whether it's from loved ones, friends, or professionals. Sometimes, simply talking to someone about how you're feeling can help you gain perspective and figure out how to start taking steps to reclaim your sense of self. You don't have to go through this process by yourself. There is strength in asking for help and in recognizing when you need a break or a change. By acknowledging that your needs matter, you begin the process of rediscovering who you are beneath the layers of expectations and demands placed on you. It's a process of self-care and self-compassion, where you start to listen to your inner voice and honor what it is that you truly need. This journey might take time, and there may be moments when you feel like you've lost your way. But with patience and persistence, you can begin to rebuild a stronger sense of self, one where your needs are not forgotten or overlooked, but respected and valued. In the end, remembering your needs and desires is not just about taking care of yourself. It's about rediscovering your true self. When you take the time to care for your own emotional, mental, and physical health, you're not only improving your own life, but you're also creating the foundation for healthier, more fulfilling relationships with others. The key to a balanced life is recognizing that your needs are just as important as anyone else's, and that you deserve to live a life where you're not just a caretaker of others' happiness, but a nurturer of your own. Nightly Rumination. Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night staring at the ceiling, your mind racing through 1,000 different worries? It's almost as if your brain is working overtime, replaying every small mistake, every decision you regret, and every situation that left you unsettled. This constant cycle of overthinking can feel like a trap, pulling you deeper and deeper into a spiral of anxiety and doubt. The worst part is that it's so easy to get caught up in these loops of thought that it feels impossible to escape. Instead of drifting off into a peaceful sleep, you're left with a restless mind, questioning every little thing that's happened in your life. This nightly rumination, the constant replaying of worries and regrets, can take a heavy toll on your mental and emotional well-being. It's as if your thoughts become a broken record, looping over and over again, never allowing you to find peace or rest. In these moments, it might feel like there's no way out, like you're trapped in a never-ending cycle of overthinking that won't let you move forward. And the more you try to stop the thoughts, the louder they seem to get. It's as if the harder you try to push them away, the stronger they push back, dragging you deeper into worry. What's even more frustrating is how these worries often seem to come out of nowhere. You could be having a perfectly good day, feeling relatively calm and content, and then, as soon as the night falls, your mind starts to spiral. A simple thought or a fleeting memory can trigger a wave of anxiety, leading to hours of questioning, replaying past events, and imagining worst-case scenarios. The more you try to reason with yourself, the more tangled the thoughts become, until you feel like you're caught in an endless loop that refuses to break. The issue with nightly rumination is that it keeps you from being able to focus on the present moment. Instead of enjoying a peaceful evening or preparing your mind for a restful sleep, you're left wrestling with thoughts that keep you from fully relaxing. It becomes a vicious cycle, where your worries prevent you from resting, and your lack of rest makes it even harder to manage those worries. Over time, this can lead to a significant decrease in your overall well-being. You may feel tired, anxious, and mentally drained, struggling to function during the day because the weight of your worries from the night before is still heavy on your mind. One of the most difficult parts of rumination is that it often focuses on things you cannot change. It's not uncommon for the mind to replay moments from the past, conversations you wish you'd handled differently, mistakes you can't undo, or decisions you regret. These thoughts can become obsessive, as if your mind is desperately trying to find an answer or solution to something that can no longer be fixed. But the truth is, No matter how many times you revisit these thoughts, they won't change the past. They won't erase the mistakes, smooth over the misunderstandings, or undo what's been done. In the end, they only serve to rob you of your peace of mind, taking up space that could be better spent on more constructive thoughts. Another frustrating aspect of nightly rumination is that it often causes you to fixate on things that may never even happen. The mind has a way of imagining worst-case scenarios, spinning out a web of hypothetical situations that are far from reality. You may find yourself worrying about something that hasn't occurred yet, but because your mind is so focused on it, it feels as though it's already happening. This kind of thinking can increase your stress levels, making it difficult to relax and enjoy the present moment. You might spend hours lying in bed, imagining every possible negative outcome, all the while forgetting that most of these fears are simply in your head. In many cases, the act of rumination can be a sign of deeper emotional struggles, such as anxiety or unresolved stress. It can become a coping mechanism, a way for your mind to try and control or make sense of chaotic feelings. But the problem is, ruminating only provides a temporary distraction from those deeper issues. It doesn't solve them. The more you focus on the worries, the more they grow, until they consume your thoughts entirely. In these moments, it can feel as if there's no escape from the grip of anxiety, as if you're trapped in a loop with no way out. So, what can you do to break free from this cycle of nightly rumination? The first step is recognizing that it's not your fault. You're not weak or overly anxious because you experience these thoughts. It's a natural response to stress and uncertainty. The key is learning how to manage and reframe those thoughts rather than letting them control you. One of the most effective strategies for breaking the cycle of rumination is to practice mindfulness. By learning to stay present in the moment, you can train your mind to focus on what's happening right now, rather than getting lost in past regrets or future worries. This can be as simple as taking a few deep breaths before bed, gently bringing your attention back to your breathing whenever your mind starts to wander. You can also practice grounding techniques, such as focusing on the sensations of your body or the sounds around you, to help redirect your focus away from anxious thoughts. Another helpful strategy is to establish a bedtime routine that promotes relaxation. This could include activities like reading a book, taking a warm bath, or listening to calming music. By creating a peaceful environment before bed, you can signal to your brain that it's time to wind down and let go of the day's stresses. Establishing this routine can help you shift from a state of heightened alertness to a more relaxed and restful state, making it easier to fall asleep without getting caught up in rumination. If you find that your thoughts are still racing, it may be helpful to journal or write down your worries before bed. This allows you to express your thoughts on paper, freeing your mind from the need to keep replaying them. By acknowledging your worries and then setting them aside for the night, you can create a mental boundary that helps prevent the cycle of rumination from taking over. Finally, remember to be kind to yourself. It's easy to become frustrated when you can't quiet your mind, but beating yourself up only adds to the anxiety. Recognize that these thoughts are part of the human experience and that it's okay to struggle with them. Over time, with patience and practice, you can begin to break free from the grip of nightly rumination and enjoy more peaceful nights of rest. In the end, learning to manage your thoughts and reclaim your peace of mind is a journey. It's not about completely eliminating worries, but about finding a way to coexist with them without letting them take over. By taking small steps each day to calm your mind and practice self-care, you can begin to experience more restful nights and a sense of calm that extends into your waking hours. Self-doubt. Have you ever found yourself questioning your abilities, second-guessing your decisions, or wondering if you're good enough? It's a feeling that can creep in unexpectedly, often when you least expect it. Self-doubt can quietly erode your confidence, planting seeds of insecurity in your mind that grow over time. At first, it might feel like a small voice, just a whisper, but before you know it, that whisper becomes a constant nagging, making you doubt everything you once believed about yourself. It can make you question your worth, your talents, and your ability to achieve your dreams. The more you listen to those whispers, the stronger they become, until they dominate your thoughts and limit your potential. This is the power of self-doubt, a subtle and insidious force that can hold you back from pursuing the things you want most in life. It can convince you that you're not capable, that you're not worthy, or that others are somehow better or more deserving than you. And what's worse, this voice often feeds on your vulnerabilities. It picks at your weaknesses, highlighting every flaw and mistake, no matter how small. It convinces you that every failure is a reflection of your abilities, and that every success is a mere stroke of luck, not the result of your hard work and effort. In these moments of self-doubt, it's easy to forget all the accomplishments and strengths that define you. The mind becomes clouded with negativity, and it becomes harder to see the positive aspects of yourself. You may start to compare yourself to others, measuring your worth against their successes, abilities, or achievements. But what you fail to realize is that you're not seeing the full picture. You're only focusing on the parts of yourself that you perceive as weaknesses, while overlooking the many strengths that make you unique. Self-doubt doesn't just affect your thoughts, it affects your actions too. When you start doubting yourself, it can lead to hesitation and fear. You may avoid taking risks, delay decisions, or hold yourself back from opportunities because you're too worried about making a mistake or failing. You begin to limit your own potential, trapping yourself in a cycle of indecision and fear of failure. Instead of moving forward and growing, you find yourself standing still, paralyzed by the constant nagging doubts that tell you you're not capable of achieving your goals. The most frustrating thing about self-doubt is how it can make you feel disconnected from your true self. You start to believe that the voice of doubt is the truth, but in reality, it's just a distorted perception, a lie that you've allowed to take root in your mind. These lies, if left unchecked, can prevent you from reaching your full potential, keeping you stuck in a place of uncertainty and fear. They keep you from recognizing your worth and the value you bring to the table, making it harder to embrace the opportunities that come your way. But what if I told you that the very fact that you're experiencing self-doubt means you're on the path to growth? It might sound counterintuitive, but self-doubt can actually be a sign that you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, that you're stretching yourself to try something new or challenging. When you step out of your familiar routine and try something different, it's natural to feel uncertain or unsure of yourself. It's a sign that you're moving beyond your limits, trying to expand what's possible for you. The key to overcoming self-doubt lies in changing the way you view it. Instead of seeing it as a barrier, try to view it as a signal that you're growing and evolving. It's not something to fear or avoid. Rather, it's something to acknowledge and understand. Recognize that everyone experiences self-doubt at some point, even the most successful people. The difference is that they don't let it control their actions or define their worth. They acknowledge the doubt, but they don't let it stop them from moving forward. One way to combat self-doubt is to challenge the negative thoughts that arise in your mind. When you catch yourself thinking, "I'm not good enough," or "I can't do this," take a moment to pause and reframe the thought. Ask yourself, is this really true? What evidence do I have to support this belief? Often, when you step back and look at the situation objectively, you'll realize that the doubts are not based on facts, but on fear or insecurity. By shifting your mindset and focusing on your strengths and past successes, you can begin to rewire your thinking and diminish the power of self-doubt. Another powerful tool in overcoming self-doubt is self-compassion. It's easy to be hard on yourself when you make mistakes or face challenges, but beating yourself up only strengthens the voice of doubt. Instead, practice kindness toward yourself. Acknowledge your feelings of doubt without judgment, and remind yourself that it's okay to feel uncertain. Understand that you're human, and like everyone else, you will have moments of vulnerability and self-questioning. Instead of criticizing yourself, offer yourself the same compassion and understanding that you would offer to a friend in the same situation. It's also important to surround yourself with positive influences and supportive people who can help boost your confidence. When you're constantly surrounded by negativity or people who undermine your abilities, it becomes even harder to overcome self-doubt. Seek out relationships that inspire and uplift you, people who believe in you and encourage you to pursue your goals. Their support can act as a counterbalance to the negative voices in your head, helping you to see yourself in a more positive light. Remember that overcoming self-doubt is not an overnight process. It takes time and effort to retrain your mind and shift your perspective. There will be days when the doubts creep back in, but that's okay. The goal isn't to eliminate self-doubt completely. It's to learn how to manage it, recognize it for what it is, and not let it control your life. With practice, you'll become more confident in your abilities and more resilient in the face of challenges. In the end, self-doubt doesn't define you. It's simply a temporary feeling that you can overcome with patience, self-compassion, and a positive mindset. The more you practice these strategies, the more you'll begin to see yourself as capable, worthy, and strong. You'll start to trust in your abilities and believe that you can achieve whatever you set your mind to. And when you do, you'll realize that self-doubt is just a fleeting moment, one that you have the power to move beyond. Boundary blur. In relationships, one of the most important things you need is a clear sense of where your space ends and someone else's begins. Without this sense of personal boundaries, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, confused, and even controlled. But when boundaries are blurred, when you can no longer tell where you end and another person begins, it can create a sense of disorientation and unease. You start to feel like your identity is fading, and that you're no longer in control of your own life. This loss of clear distinction between what is yours and what belongs to someone else can be incredibly damaging, leaving you stuck in a cycle of emotional turmoil and self-doubt. At first, it can be hard to notice when boundaries begin to blur. It often starts with small compromises, subtle changes in behavior or attitudes that make you feel like something isn't quite right, but you can't put your finger on it. Maybe it's the constant pressure to meet someone else's needs, or the feeling that your personal feelings are being disregarded. Over time, these small shifts build up, and you find yourself slowly losing sight of who you are and what you want. You may even start to put someone else's needs, desires, and opinions above your own, feeling like you have no choice but to meet their expectations. When boundaries blur in a relationship, it becomes difficult to maintain a healthy sense of self. You may feel as though you have to change your own behavior to accommodate the other person, constantly adjusting to their wants and needs. You stop making decisions based on your own values, and instead, you start to make choices based on what others expect from you. The more you give, the more you lose sight of who you are. You begin to question your own desires, wondering if they even matter in comparison to what others want from you. The truth is that when someone else's needs overshadow your own, it's not just the relationship that suffers. It's you. Your emotional and mental well-being starts to deteriorate, and the person you once were begins to fade. When boundaries are blurred, you may find yourself compromising your integrity, your values, and your time in order to maintain a sense of connection with someone else. This can create feelings of resentment and frustration, because deep down, you know that your needs are being ignored. You might even feel like you're losing your voice and your autonomy, trapped in a relationship where it's difficult to express your own thoughts and desires. One of the biggest challenges that comes with blurred boundaries is the emotional toll it takes on you. The constant struggle between fulfilling someone else's needs and honoring your own can leave you feeling exhausted and emotionally drained. When you feel like you are constantly putting others first, it's easy to lose sight of what you truly want in life. You may even begin to believe that your needs aren't important, or that you don't deserve to have your boundaries respected. This kind of thinking can lead to a cycle of self-neglect, where you constantly put yourself last, leaving little room for self-care or personal growth. Furthermore, blurred boundaries can lead to manipulation and control. When someone else is able to ignore or override your boundaries, they can gain control over your actions, decisions, and emotions. This is often done subtly, making you feel like you're the one in control, even though you're constantly giving in to the other person's needs. Over time, you may become so accustomed to this dynamic that you no longer question it. The lines between what's yours and what's theirs become so unclear that you forget how to stand up for yourself. This is the dangerous part. When you stop recognizing the subtle ways in which your boundaries are being crossed, you become more vulnerable to emotional manipulation. But the good news is that it's possible to regain control and restore your sense of self. The first step is to recognize when your boundaries are being blurred. Pay attention to your feelings and reactions when you feel uncomfortable, pressured, or disregarded. Trust your instincts. If you feel like your needs are being ignored or violated, it's important to acknowledge those feelings and take action to protect yourself. It's also important to communicate clearly and assertively about your needs and boundaries. This might involve having difficult conversations with the people in your life about what is acceptable and what is not. Setting healthy boundaries isn't about being harsh or unreasonable. It's about respecting both yourself and others. When you communicate your boundaries with kindness and confidence, you teach others how to respect them, and you also teach yourself to honor your own needs. Restoring boundaries can be a gradual process. Start by identifying areas in your life where you feel like your boundaries are being blurred, and take small steps to reclaim them. This might mean saying no to things that don't align with your values or making more time for yourself, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. By practicing self-respect and self-care, you reinforce your own worth and begin to rebuild your sense of identity. As you regain your sense of self and your boundaries become clearer, you may also notice positive changes in your relationships. Healthy boundaries create space for mutual respect, understanding, and support. When both people in a relationship are able to clearly define their personal limits, it creates an environment where both individuals feel safe, valued, and heard. The relationship becomes more balanced, and both people are able to thrive without sacrificing their individual needs and identities. Ultimately, the key to overcoming boundary blur is to recognize that you are worthy of respect, love, and care. Your needs and desires are just as important as anyone else's, and it's crucial to honor them. It's not about being selfish or shutting others out. It's about taking care of yourself and ensuring that you can show up fully in your relationships without losing who you are. When you are able to establish and maintain healthy boundaries, you'll find that your relationships become more fulfilling, your confidence grows, and your peace of mind is restored. You deserve to live a life where your needs are respected and where you can thrive as your true, authentic self. Peace block. Imagine a place where everything feels calm. No worries, no stress, just pure tranquility. Now, imagine that feeling being interrupted over and over again. It's as though every time you start to relax, something stands in your way, blocking you from the peace you crave. This sense of peace, so hard to come by, is being constantly guarded and blocked, not by external forces, but by someone who seems intent on keeping you in a state of chaos. You can't breathe easily, can't think clearly, and no matter how hard you try, your calm is just out of reach. This phenomenon, where peace seems to be constantly under threat, is something many people experience in their relationships. It's a form of emotional manipulation that doesn't always look obvious on the surface. It's not about loud arguments or direct confrontations. Instead, it's the quiet, subtle ways in which a person can block your peace, through actions or words, or even through their very presence. It's like standing guard at the door to your calm, preventing you from entering a space where you can truly relax and recharge. And while it may not seem harmful at first, the constant disruption to your mental and emotional balance can have a profound effect on your well-being. At the heart of this peace-blocking behavior is control. It's not always about deliberately causing harm, but rather about maintaining power in the relationship. When someone stands guard at the door of your calm, they're not just keeping you from finding inner peace. They're controlling the atmosphere of the relationship. They keep you in a state of constant alertness, where you're always reacting, always on edge, and never truly able to let your guard down. You may begin to feel like you can't win. Every time you try to find a moment of calm, it's taken away, and you're left with that feeling of unrest. The reasons behind this behavior can vary. For some, it's about a deep-rooted insecurity or fear that they'll lose control over the relationship if you're allowed to find peace. For others, it may be a manipulation tactic, intentionally creating chaos so that you remain dependent on them for emotional stability. They may make comments or behave in ways that destabilize your peace, knowing that the resulting anxiety will keep you tethered to them. They may seek to provoke reactions from you, whether it's anger, frustration, or even guilt, all of which keep you from the quiet calm you desperately need. This behavior can take many forms. It could be constant criticism, where no matter how hard you try, nothing is ever good enough. It might be passive-aggressive comments that leave you second-guessing yourself. It could even be a sense of unpredictability, where the other person's mood shifts constantly, leaving you feeling like you're walking on eggshells. Each time you try to relax, they find a way to pull you back into the turmoil. In some cases, they might create a sense of urgency, filling your time with tasks or problems that require your immediate attention. Instead of allowing you to take a break, they demand more of your time and energy, further blocking your ability to find peace. In many ways, peace blocking can feel like an emotional hostage situation. You may find yourself constantly making compromises and sacrifices, hoping that if you just do enough or give enough, you'll be allowed some respite. But that moment never comes. The more you give, the more they take, and the further away peace seems. You begin to wonder if it's even possible to find a moment of quiet, or if you're forever trapped in a cycle of emotional turbulence. Another way peace blocking manifests is through a lack of support. When you're dealing with challenges in your life, instead of being met with understanding, empathy, or encouragement, you're met with criticism or indifference. Your struggles are minimized or even dismissed, leaving you feeling alone in your efforts to find peace. This lack of support doesn't just affect your immediate situation, it leaves you feeling like you can't trust your own feelings, because every time you try to express a need for peace, you're met with resistance. Over time, this can lead to self-doubt and confusion as you begin to question whether you're asking for too much or if your desire for calm is unreasonable. As the peace blocking continues, you start to feel like your emotional well-being is no longer in your hands. The peace you once enjoyed becomes an elusive dream, something that feels like it's slipping through your fingers. You may find yourself growing increasingly anxious, frustrated, and exhausted, all because the one thing you truly need, peace of mind, feels completely out of reach. The impact of this constant disruption to your peace is profound. Over time, it can lead to increased stress and anxiety, as well as a loss of confidence and self-esteem. You may feel like you're constantly chasing something that's always just beyond your grasp. This ongoing state of tension can take a toll on your physical health as well, leading to sleep disturbances, headaches, and other stress-related symptoms. It can also affect your relationships with others, as you find it hard to focus on anything outside of the turmoil created by the peace-blocking behavior. But while it may feel like peace blocking is a constant force in your life, there are steps you can take to regain control. The first step is recognizing when your peace is being blocked. Pay attention to your emotional state and how certain people or situations make you feel. If you notice that you're constantly on edge, stressed out, or unable to relax, it's important to acknowledge that something is out of balance. Once you recognize this, you can begin to take steps to protect your peace. Setting clear boundaries is one of the most effective ways to reclaim your sense of calm. This may involve having difficult conversations with the person who is blocking your peace, letting them know that their behavior is not acceptable and that you need space to recharge. It might also mean taking a step back from relationships that are consistently causing you distress, allowing you the room you need to regain your emotional equilibrium. Another important step is practicing self-care. Make time for activities that help you relax and feel grounded, whether it's meditation, spending time in nature, or engaging in a hobby that brings you joy. When you prioritize your own well-being, you send a message that your peace is valuable and worth protecting. Ultimately, regaining your peace is about reclaiming your power. It's about recognizing that you have the right to feel calm, centered, and in control of your own emotional state. By setting boundaries, practicing self-care, and standing firm in your need for peace, you can create an environment where you are no longer held hostage by the chaos of others. The calm you seek is within your reach. It's just a matter of protecting it from the forces that seek to block it. Resilience spark. We all know the feeling. The weight of the world pressing down on us. The exhaustion that seems never-ending. The emotional and mental drain that makes everything feel like an uphill battle. It can seem as though no matter how much effort we put into staying strong, life keeps throwing challenges our way. But here's something important to remember. You have an inner spark of resilience waiting to be reignited. It's within you, deep inside, just waiting for the right moment to emerge. And when it does, it can change everything, giving you the strength to reclaim the rest you truly deserve. Resilience is not about never feeling tired or overwhelmed. It's not about being immune to life's difficulties. In fact, true resilience isn't built on avoiding hardship. It's built on how you respond to it. It's about the ability to adapt, to bounce back, and most importantly, to give yourself permission to rest when it's needed. Because here's the thing. True strength comes not just from pushing through without stopping, but from knowing when to pause, reflect, and recharge. The spark of resilience exists in everyone. It's that quiet determination that arises when everything else seems like it's falling apart. It's what helps us stand tall when we feel like giving up, and what guides us through the toughest times. Resilience isn't something you have to search for or wait for. It's already there, quietly supporting you in the background, ready to step forward when you need it the most. But just like any spark, it needs to be nourished to grow. You can't expect to rely on your inner resilience if you're constantly running on empty, never taking a break to restore your energy. If you've been running on autopilot for a while, it's time to take a step back and focus on nurturing that spark. This is your turn to reclaim rest, the kind of rest that goes beyond just sleeping or taking a break. It's the kind of rest that refreshes your mind, body, and soul, allowing you to return to life's challenges with a renewed sense of purpose. When life becomes overwhelming, it's easy to feel like we're too weak or too tired to keep going. We may start to believe that our resilience is fading, or that we don't have the strength to carry on. But that's where the spark comes in. It's not about burning brightly all the time. It's about knowing when to gather your energy and when to let your inner flame rest and rejuvenate. Just like a candle that flickers before lighting up again, resilience works in cycles. Sometimes, the best way to reignite your spark is to allow yourself the space to rest without guilt. Taking the time to rest doesn't mean you're giving up. In fact, it's the opposite. It's about acknowledging that rest is an essential part of the process of growth and healing. In the same way that a plant needs water, sunlight, and time to grow, your resilience needs rest, reflection, and care to strengthen. And this rest doesn't have to look like just lying down and doing nothing. It's about finding what truly nourishes you, what brings you peace, and what restores your energy. Maybe it's taking a walk in nature, practicing mindfulness, or simply spending time with loved ones. Whatever it is, it's important to remember that giving yourself permission to rest is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. In fact, the act of resting and recharging is one of the most powerful ways to build resilience. It's when we rest that we allow our minds and bodies to process the stress and strain we've been under. We allow our emotions to settle, our thoughts to quiet, and our energy to replenish. When we're well rested, we're able to handle life's challenges with a clearer mind and a stronger heart. We can think more clearly, make better decisions, and act from a place of inner peace rather than desperation or exhaustion. And this renewed sense of strength is what allows us to keep going, no matter how difficult things may seem. This is where your resilience spark comes back into play. When you take the time to rest, you're not just recharging your body, you're reigniting that inner fire, that quiet strength that has always been there, waiting to help you rise above the challenges of life. You begin to remember that you're not defined by the struggles you face, but by how you rise above them. And when you're well rested, you have the clarity to see just how much strength you truly possess. Resting is also a way to reconnect with yourself. In our busy lives, it's easy to lose touch with our own needs and desires. We get caught up in the demands of daily life, whether it's work, family, or responsibilities, and we forget to check in with ourselves. But when we take time to rest, we give ourselves the chance to reconnect with who we are, what we want, and what makes us feel whole. This deep connection with ourselves is what fuels our resilience, allowing us to face challenges from a place of inner strength and authenticity. As you work to reclaim rest, it's important to remember that this isn't just a one-time event. It's a practice, something you can incorporate into your life regularly. Reclaiming rest is about making space for moments of stillness, finding small ways to recharge throughout the day, and giving yourself permission to slow down when you need it. It's about creating a rhythm in your life that allows you to be both productive and peaceful, active and restful, strong and gentle. Ultimately, the resilience spark within you is not a fleeting flame. It's a constant presence, always ready to light the way when you need it most. But just like any fire, it needs care and attention to keep burning brightly. By embracing rest as a vital part of your journey, you're not only taking care of your physical and emotional well-being, you're nurturing the very resilience that will carry you through life's ups and downs. So take a deep breath, give yourself permission to rest, and let your inner spark of resilience shine brighter than ever before. You are stronger than you know, and the rest you deserve is just a step away.